Hello and welcome to ETN.
What?
I took your spot.
I thought I'd do the intro.
Go on then.
Okay, hold
We're
on.
live.
We're live right now. Sorry.
You can talk.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to ETN,
There we
the
go.
most European podcast in the world. Well, you just thought you wanted...
The day is Tuesday, 24th of February, 2026. And I did think I wanted to
You just
do
wanted
that.
the limelight.
I just wanted the limelight for a sec.
That was not discussed.
I just wanted to steal. I wanted to limelight mog you.
You caught me off guard. Here I was, podcast gesturing, jester podding, and you just completely limelight mogged me.
Oh, it's great stuff. It's a great day to be a tech bro. It really
It's a
is.
great day to be a tech bro. It's not a great day to be a SaaS investor.
I tell you what, it's not
Is
a
it?
great day to be is Calci as well. Getting
Oh,
absolutely mogged
I
by
saw.
Polymarket, which is always good fun, which we'll get into in a second.
I saw that mog.
All the mogging.
What a insane... I mean, this is one of the more crazy pieces of news we've covered. And it's not really technically news, to be honest. It's more of a report that was released. Citrini researched the global intelligence crisis.
It's the most impactful report or what is this article ever released that has had the most impact on the global stock market ever, I imagine.
Is that fact checked or is that a loop fact?
I'm just gonna lay the fact out that it
It's a
wasn't
Luke
fact
fact. Sources.
But come on,
just
you've got
trust
to.
Luke.
Would you agree that that's a fairly,
I would say that we've reached.
it's pretty close. If it's not, it's pretty close.
A scary state. I think it was something like 700. I don't know. I want to say billion, but I don't know.
Whoa.
That's a bit maybe too high. I think it was something like that. But the scary thing about this is that it was a Substack essay, a well thought out, well researched, well presented.
Yeah.
Multiple edits. Limited AI use, but if not none. By some
No,
by some
I would
very
say a little
accomplished.
bit. I read it. It was. I would say there's a little bit of AI in there. Sprinkles.
You think?
Yeah, a little bit.
The three authors are
I mean, I
very
summarised it with
accomplished.
AI as well, so and we're going to read through that.
Okay. No, we have the original article.
Yeah, we're not gonna read
to
the
go
whole
over.
thing.
No, we can sit on it for a while. A shout out to the three original authors: Sammy Kopelman, who's an editor and a proofreader; Steve, who was they're claiming is very helpful. Double checking on all of the macro analysis, and also Alap Shah was the first person to pose the question and had many of the ideas that the piece revolves around. And what we've seen in response to this piece, which essentially pictures a fictional setting in the year of 2028 around the process of AI continuing to be as bullish as it is right now. If it continues on the trajectory that we're seeing in the current moment, what would the financial world and financial markets and the world in general, what would it look like? And it's pretty scary, and it riled up the timeline. It really shook people up a bit.
The best thing I saw on the timeline was I can't remember who it's from, someone I follow, and I see they're very active. They're not huge. I think they have maybe just under 10,000 followers, but they posted a picture of a beach with a bunch of humans on it, maybe 30 to 50 people on the beach. It was a nice sunny day, and he just commented and said, none of these people have read the article, the Citrini article, and
Probably a good thing.
probably a good thing. Yeah, otherwise they wouldn't be on the beach. They'd be, I don't know, crying in their beds,
Yeah, especially if
thinking,
you're-
God,
But
my life's over.
the joke thing about this is that, like we were saying earlier, that I don't know
Everything's
anyone.
falling down.
I don't know anyone who holds software stocks. I don't have friends that are like, dude, I'm buying the dip on Salesforce.
Oh, right.
I don't that's not something that comes up often. When we're talking about picks or whatever, and I've got a couple group chats where people's like, okay, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
And it's there's never any.
I'm going to be a bit more active and buy the dip of.
Yeah, well, there's never any. Legitimate thought out process, right? These are people with no traditional financial or investing backgrounds.
Yeah.
Buying
It's
off
not like you're
trading 2 on 2.
A
They're not
WhatsApp
gonna,
chat with a bunch of fund
It's not
managers.
serious alpha. It's like sees tweets, goes and then buys stock from tweet.
Yeah.
However, with that said,
How most tech bros should do it. They're not fund managers.
They're not.
That's how
They're
you should do it.
vibe investors like myself. But no one's ever messaged like, guys, I think Salesforce is a real buy here, or like, guys, HubSpot is looking real juicy at this negative 40 on the year. Like, no one's really
For a bottom signal, here we go.
Yeah,
the only
no
way
one's-
is up here.
Yeah, they're catching knives, but no one is doing that. But anyway, let's just get into this piece because it's just such an interesting read. I'm gonna hit this to share my screen.
I don't think we can. I have summarized it, by the way, so we can kind of go through chronologically what's important. But you go and do your thing, do the preface, and then we can roll through and thank Gemini for a nice, a nice concise summary.
Yeah. Okay. So, headline: the 2028 global intelligence crisis, a thought exercise in financial history from the future. Preface: what if our AI bullishness continues to be right? What if that's actually bearish? What follows is a scenario, not a prediction. This isn't bear porn or AI doom or fan fiction. The sole intent of this piece is modeling a scenario that's been relatively underexplored. Our friend Alap Shah posed the question, and together we brainstormed the answer. We wrote this part, and he's written 2 others you can find here. Hopefully reading this leaves you more prepared for potential left-tail risks as AI makes the economy increasingly weird. This is the Citrini Research Macro Memo from June 2028, detailing the progression and fallout of the global intelligence crisis. So they do stress like this is a fictional piece. This is not a real situation. This is a what if scenario.
Yeah.
Based off a lot of good fundamental research from 3 people who have also proven they are capable of doing so. Like Alap Shah has sold a previous company for 200 million.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are capable individuals.
Mm-hmm. Ex-Citadel trader.
Yeah. He was there.
I
for
think
it, wasn't he?
ex-fund.
So just to give you like an intro,
stuff.
so this is the macro memo, the consequences of abundant intelligence in Trinity research. So the date, June 30th, 2028. The unemployment rate printed 10.2% this morning, a 0.3% upside. Surprise. The market sold off 2% on the number, bringing the cumulative drawdown in the S&P to 38% from its October 2026 highs. Traders have grown numb. 6 months ago, a print like this would have triggered a circuit breaker. 2 years. That's all it took to get from contained and sector-specific to an economy that no longer resembles the one any of us grew up in. This quarter's macro memo is our attempt to reconstruct the sequence and a post-mortem on the pre-crisis economy. The euphoria was palpable. By October 2026, the S&P flirted with 8,000. The Nasdaq broke above 30K. The initial wave of layoffs due to human obsolescence began in early 2026, and they did exactly what layoffs are supposed to do. Margins expanded, earnings beat, stocks rallied, record-setting corporate profits were funneled right back into AI compute. The headline numbers were still great. Nominal GDP repeatedly printed to mid to high single-digit annualized growth. Productivity was booming. Real output per house rose at rates not seen since 1950s, driven by AI agents that don't sleep, take sick days, or require health insurance. So you get like, already from the start, it's picturing this dystopian future in which the world has kind of gone down the AI path that people are happy to go down right now in the space, but it's gone down a path that's resulted in a more not world ending, but
it's like a financial collapse basically. It's very contagious and it's pretty doomerism. I mean, they start off in late 2025, so the SaaS erosion and an initial displacement, and displacement is a big thing basically. And obviously talking about the agentic coding tools experiencing a step function jump, allowing developers to replicate complex SaaS products in weeks. Already happening, already a thing. Early 2026, where we are now, first wave of human
layoffs. They have a piece here for how it started. It's broken down here. So in late 2025, agentic coding tools took a step function jump in capability. A competent developer working with Claw'd or Codex could now replicate the core functionality of a mid-market SaaS product in weeks. Not perfectly, or with every edge case handled, but well enough that the CIO reviewing a $500K annual renewal started asking questions, what if we just built this ourselves? Fiscal years mostly line up with calendar years, so 2026 enterprise spend has been set in Q4 2025, when agentic AI was still a buzzword. The mid-year review was the first time procurement teams were making decisions with visibility into what these systems could actually do. Some watched their own internal teams spin up prototypes replicating six-figure SaaS contracts in weeks. So here we get hints of, like, this is late 2025. You're referencing 2026 here in the future of what the company spend will be.
Mm-hmm.
We're already getting hints of like the capability mismatch in terms of like how capable are these current technologies right now, with the idea of it's not outrageous to claim that a CIO who maybe isn't as involved isn't like natively AI, but all his or her AI friends and their peers, like the other CIOs that they know, are getting pressured by whether it's the board or other investors or just purely like herd mentality to start questioning, like, what if we just use Claude Code to spin up our, I don't know, like internal like SOC 2. I mean, it's a bad one to use because it's all about compliance, but
the internal CRM, can we just build an internal CRM?
Right.
So we've got Gokul Rajaram on the show. He's the he's the founding partner at Marathon Management Partners, and he's talked a little bit about Airtable's project HyperAgent as like a major bet. And so it's like, I want to ask him the question about what happens when all of these larger companies are building like directly into the company themselves and not kind of outsourcing, these agentic platforms, because the major moat that all of these like unstoppable SaaS companies have is that they have systems of record. So they have all of the data that they need to be able to produce everything that they need to produce. They don't have to migrate it to a different platform. And that's what he's saying that's what he said before. The integration problem is the hurdle. And when you're building a company, he says at the moment you should spend a year or 2 years to go and work on the data migration platform to migrate all of your data away from the legacy platform that they're already using to your platform, and then build the solution for them. Because there's no point coming up with a nice solution when they still have to do all of the integration and everything else in between. And that's what they're saying. It's like there's going to be a realization in the C kind of C-suite level where it's like, well, why don't we just build it ourselves within the company? We already have all the data. We have all the training, data to be able to spin these things up. Let's either acqui-hire some people in, as you've seen from like a Salesforce doing it or whatever, or just hire some cracked engineers to go and build this thing. And yeah, so like, where's the moat? So that's, and then these huge companies are just get more and more powerful because they're able to spin up, internal tools that are hyper specific to what they're doing. Yeah.
It seems to me that this seems to be the most common response in terms of a moat, is the fact that, okay, yes, I'm the CEO or CRO of like Benioff's there. Like, okay, yeah, I'm running Salesforce. You try ripping out, again, bad example because Salesforce is a CRM company and they would never do this, but you try ripping out a CRM for a 90,000 person organization and replacing it with a vibe coded tool, or even like use the word vibe coded.
Well, what was that thing that came out that Anthropic was using Salesforce? Is that right? Like it was like last week.
They were looking for like Salesforce administrators and lovables on HubSpot as well.
Yeah.
Which is again like all the information you need in terms of like where are we actually at. However, I do feel that if that's the moat that keeps getting, if that's the response in terms of a moat that keeps getting put out there, I do feel that in many ways it's strong now, but I think it will become incredibly weak as time progresses, just because it's like, oh yeah, we could do that, but that's a lot of work.
Yeah, but the barrier to work just goes down. Like as agents get better and smarter, the work is done by agents. The work isn't done by human beings.
I think it's weak, is what I mean. It's like,
see.
Okay, that's a lot of work. I was like, okay, is that it? Is that what we've got?
Yeah.
Because that won't be a problem. So.
Well, that's like work isn't a barrier anymore. So that's mid-year 2026. Enterprise procurement teams begin using AI tools to build internal software, forcing SaaS vendors to offer deep discounts or face cancellation. Now phase 2, the reflexive loop and market euphoria. So this starts in October 2026. Market euphoria peaks. The S&P 500 nears 8,000 and the NASDAQ breaks 30K. October 2026 again, ServiceNow reports a significant slowdown in growth. Investors realize that customer layoffs are mechanically destroying the license-based SaaS model. SaaS apocalypse. Jan 2027, white-collar workers that represent 50% of employment drive a ghost GDP phenomenon. Output is high, but the real-world money velocity flatlines because machines don't spend. So you've got all of these companies buying stuff from each other, and it looks like it looks like company productivity is at an all-time high. Everything is soaring. But an AI doesn't go and buy a house. An AI doesn't, go and AIs don't have mortgages. AIs don't go, out to the pub on a Friday night. They don't go for dinner. So it's like, all of this other spending isn't being spent. So it's like this ghost GDP, which I think is such an interesting thing. And I'd never heard of that, like what they're calling it, a phenomenon. I've never heard of that phenomenon before. So that was interesting. So that's the end of phase 2. Then phase 3, intermediation collapse.
Wait, what year are we in now?
We're now in March 2027.
Okay.
March 2027, an AI agent on agent violence begins. Autonomous bots negotiate subscriptions, price match across platforms, and eliminate habitual loyalty for apps like DoorDash. There's no loyalty. Everyone's just kind of doing their own thing. Which I, again, disagree with. It's like the thing about when a very large company creates like a basic form of their product, say like, I don't know, a standard supermarket will create their own basics of like Amazon Basics, right?
Mm-hmm. Wait, what's Amazon Basics?
It's like, like
it's not
Amazon
that shop
Basics.
where you can go.
No. Amazon Basics is like if I search something on Amazon, say like, I don't know, a coffee cup, I could buy I could buy an unbranded Amazon Basic. So it's like it's made by Amazon or like made by maybe a third party. Amazon Basics branded. It might be like 20% cheaper than all the other branded ones that are listed on Amazon. But people are still going to buy people still like their own their own brands. They're like, I'm happy to pay the 20% extra to go and buy this. Whereas agents actually don't care. Cheapest, best, or whatever their threshold is or the thing that they're searching for, whatever matches that description, they're going to buy that. So they won't, that's just not really a thing. Then April 2027, Moody's issues massive downgrades to software-backed private credit, citing AI-driven disruption to recurring revenue assumptions. Mid-2027, the largest ARR-backed loan in history, in brackets Zendesk, defaults as customer service is now fully automated, rendering traditional ticketing systems obsolete. And now, at the end of 2027, the stock market crashes as the daisy chain of correlated bets on white-collar productivity finally breaks down. So it'll go in like swings. I assume is what they're explaining. And then the last phase 4 is the acute crisis in early 2028 to June 2028. We're now at the bottom.
Yeah, so it's like completely lost on the article where we are.
Are you on the screen as well?
I don't know. I think we were. Then we pulled it down.
Okay, we pulled it down. That's good. You're just going up and down.
Well, I can't keep
Command F yourself. Anyway, Q1 2028. The crisis goes global. India's IT services sector collapses as the cost of AI coding agents drops to the price of electricity, gutting the rupee. Now, June 2028. Unemployment hits 10.2%. Home values of tech hubs like SF and Seattle drop 9 to 11% as prime borrowers lose their incomes. As we were saying, AI agents aren't going to go and buy a home, but everyone else who was employed by the tech industry now no longer have any jobs because they're not needed, or they are earning less because their leverage is less. They're not creating as much value for companies because AI agents are doing everything. and therefore they can't afford to live in the cities that they were previously able to. And then in the present, June 2028, the government tax receipts fall 12% below projections. Occupy Silicon Valley protesters blockade AI labs as the public seeks a new social contract. I saw a tweet that talked about how in the 2008 financial crisis, like bankers were like the bad guys, and now it's going to be like the tech hubs. Are going to
they're already
the bad
guys, probably.
Yeah,
People hate them.
the AI labs are the bad guys.
Yeah, I remember my mate, random side story, but a friend of mine who, can I say this? I don't know. I won't say where they work or who they are, but
Yeah,
they
don't
work.
say any of that.
They work in an investment bank in London, and just on like the, the finance bros being the bad guys, they work at an investment bank in London, and during the Stop Oil.
Oh yeah, just Stop Oil
hype,
protest.
which is like, what's happened to those guys as well? I haven't seen them lying on the road in a while.
Locked up.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I've seen them
Or they don't like the
gluing
rain.
themselves to the road. However, they had marched into Canary Wharf and were basically like the investment bank that he works at also has another office, like where the back office is, and like a lot of the commercial like bank as well. So not necessarily the investment bank, but a separate building, which is full of like back office employees. So people who aren't essentially like the ones who are the bad guys because they're not doing the trades and they're not like profiting off all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And the protesters had just like
Actually, I feel like you told me
seen the building, got the wrong one, got the one that was full of like the back office employees and the people who work for the commercial
The
bank.
guy's just doing emails.
And they just like mashed it up. Like they were just chucking like red paint on all of the building. They were like smashing the windows in. They were like protesting outside of it. And you could see poetically from a higher vantage point, like the traders could see them like destroying the other thing. Just thought it was funny and somewhat relevant there.
The traders looking down.
Yeah, they were quite literally looking down on the other people.
Observing the chaos.
A little bit poetic.
That's funny.
But yeah, this article, like the people are in. I think it seems to be a divided opinion. People are praising its writing style. People are praising its creativity and the authors collectively their ability to write some good fictional scenarios that one could argue could end up being it's on the extreme side. But it's not like that rash. But it's essentially like someone's written like a fan fiction for the current SaaS apocalypse. It's like, this book's just been released about the SaaS apocalypse. This is, enjoy the read. Yeah. It's not real, but have a good time.
But what's good is the fact that they caveat and say, this is not a prediction. This might happen. But like we're just like putting it out there.
Yeah, this is just a hypothetical situation. It's not us saying this is definitely going to happen.
It's a story.
But the nuts thing is that this was it did the rounds in like most like the Bloomberg terminals. Like this piece is a reason for payments, delivery, infrastructure taking a massive dive, which seems to be a recent kind of double SaaS included as well. It was basically any company mentioned in the article took a hit, and this has come off the back of how long, probably the past week since we got back from Juventus. A lot of the conversations we've been having are around the SaaS apocalypse and what's happening right now. Like Claude is essentially just like every single week they're just lining up a different vertical, popping off a new Claude function, and it just like murks the whole. Yeah, we can pull them up later.
So DoorDash was one of those companies. DoorDash was down 6.6% today. And there was a bit of slack about DoorDash. Klaas, good friend of the show, he says, anyone who thinks you can vibe code a DoorDash competitor within weeks knows nothing about code or business. These write-ups always fall apart once you think one step ahead. Companies now build everything in-house, which means what companies? They just collapse because of AI. It's all about distribution now. in quotation marks, distributing what? We don't have any money. A lot of things are changing. AI will reshape many things, but a lot of the basic economics won't change. Obviously, pushing the point that yes, you can go and vibe code a bank, as what Andreas Helbig was talking about, but you're never going to go and vibe code the demand. Then there needs to be a demand and supply.
Yeah,
it's like I go and order food on DoorDash. Yeah, dude, it might take weeks to arrive because I need to hire the people to send me the,
if you
the
vibe
food.
coded DoorDash or Deliveroo or
Where's
Uber
the
Eats,
demand?
and then
Where's the
expected
supply?
like someone to actually turn up, you'd have to to check yourself.
DoorDash still down. DoorDash is still down.
Really, and the most interesting part of this, some people are discussing in a sense where it's highlighting how fragile things are right now, which represents a broader aspect of uncertainty.
Yeah.
Like very capable individuals who are tech native and people who honestly just have no idea that any of this is going on are kind of almost sitting in the same ground in terms of no one really knows what's going to happen. I'm not saying that people always do know what's going to happen, but this particular thing, there's so much uncertainty in the market that makes it so fragile that a Substack article can wipe out billions of market value. And like, I
think there's just so much skepticism about what's real, what's not, what could happen, what might not happen. The speed, the huge velocity of everything else going on in AI. It's just it's going to come to a breaking point.
It's weird that like there isn't. Maybe this is just
laughable.
a human trait. And again, on the show, we love drama, we love the theatrics of everything. But right now, it does seem to be that it's either there's so much money being deployed in terms of like, I think when we saw it was the Mag 7's CapEx spend that was reported in the recent earnings reports a couple of weeks back. It was it was the most money like ever deployed on a single thing of all time. Like it was rivaling, it was like smashing like the space race and all this sort of stuff. And I think there's a valid reason to have fear with regards to that much money being deployed.
I think it's just purely, but it's purely because it's not just because it's a bigger thing in terms of like the space race, big thing, right? But it's very vertical.
Yeah, pretty big.
But it's not like like AI is very horizontal.
Yeah.
You can solve a lot of human problems in work, in also life with
Police are after you for that.
Yeah, the police are fuming. They're coming.
Or was it an ambulance?
They're coming at us.
It was an ambulance.
No, I saw it.
For the SaaS holders.
I saw it.
Was anyone with HubSpot and Salesforce in your portfolios? we
if you didn't know we were in London. We're in London.
That's why they're all. I'm laughing at my own joke. Sorry, that's so awful. That's why there's so many ambulances driving around. Nice work, all that. Sorry, that just made me laugh so much. They're all for the Salesforce and HubSpot holders. Anyway, but I think I was a fan of this. I liked it. I liked it as a almost like a tech bro fan fiction piece. You know, like people will always write fan fiction for Star Wars, and they'll write it for Game of Thrones, and they'll write it for other. This was kind of like that for me. I think in a way, you know, it was quite interesting to read. The market's response was obviously super interesting, but it's not the first time something like this has happened. Like maybe it's more justifiable, but when DeepSeek released their first model, that tanked the market, mainly because Nvidia was hit the hardest, and that was representing like a lot of the of like global GDP at the time. But like this particular realm is so fragile. Like anyone with like major exposure to AI or software is kind of like at the whim of unfortunate. Well, I don't know if it's. I mean, it is probably unfortunate, but is at the whim of these types of things. And I'm very happy that I, for some reason, managed to position the majority of my portfolio in Apple, because that thing is just not, this is rigid as a rock. It's just absolutely not moving, which is amazing news.
It's just kicking.
And also ASML, shout out to the ASML team. They are on an absolute tear right now. Luke's up. You're up like 100%. I'm up 100%.
Only
huge
ASML.
fan. Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm ASML pilled.
ASML pilled. So good.
I
Anyway,
like to swing heavy. Anyway, quick word from our sponsor. Leave our daily business banking behind with Airwallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business. Multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all in one platform.
Go to
airwallex.com. I think
just drinking my mug of water. For those wondering, this is
you could lie and say it's a tea. Dude.
a mug of water. I don't like tea.
Good tea.
I don't do tea.
Good
Tea's
tea,
not
everyone.
tea's not my thing.
Producer makes a good tea.
Thank you. Up next, we would love to talk about. This was such a nuts read. So this is Sam Criss, Child's Play from Harper's Magazine. It was the first time we got like a bit of an inside look into Cluely properly. Also Donald Boat. Let's see if we can pull this one up. This is called Child's Play. It was brought out by Harper's Magazine recently and it went viral. I was trying to find Sam everywhere. I was trying to find him on X. I was trying to find him on LinkedIn. Bit of a ghost.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is fascinating.
No
This
way.
is a bit of a lengthy one, but it's essentially just painting the picture of, Tech's new generation was basically the headpiece of this, but it gave us an inside look into what's happening over at Cluely with Roy Lee, who essentially was repping the whole of sort of tech Twitter for a little bit. He was a focal point for everyone at a time, known for his leak code stuff, and then also the launch of Cluely, which he raised his round. I think it was something in 24 hours solely off Twitter, and then continued out to build Cluely, which essentially now is basically like, everyone saw the launch video that was cheat on everything. It went nuts in a small way, kind of pioneered. One of the first to do it very well anyway, these high production launch videos for startups. But since then, it's now essentially descended into a venture-backed content house. They had to pivot away from their idea to cheat on everything, which was advertised. I think they were using some sort of Meta Ray-Ban glasses. Roy was on a date and he was cheating on the date, not in a literal sense, but in a sense he was sort of using these glasses to get an edge in terms of the conversation to have with his date. And they then had to pivot to basically like a meeting note taker app that would let somebody cheat in quotation marks in a meeting. It would basically just have like a context window up, just filling them with live answers to any questions they're getting asked by the individual on the other end. At the time, it was pretty cool. Now it'd be seen as like a waste of time. But yeah, they do a deep dive on Cluely. They also do a deep dive on Donald Boat, internet sensation, who went viral after asking Sam Altman to basically buy him loads of like NVIDIA GPUs.
Where's Donald Boat gone?
He's still around.
Is
He's
he?
still around. Yeah, he's kind of
Still kicks
he's
about.
doxed himself actually. He's like revealed who he is.
No way.
Yeah,
fool.
he's hovering around.
It's the beginning of the fall.
120k followers, I think. But he stopped, his initial like he had a bit of a spat with Nikita Beer recently, actually, and then I think they settled the beef. But he was just like owning him. Anyway, intro to
I don't
the
think
article.
I follow him anymore.
What, Donald Boat?
No.
Yeah, he's a fascinating guy. The first sign that something in San Francisco had gone very badly wrong was
This was so well written, by the
it
way.
was beautiful. It was such a joy
So
to
well
just
written.
drift through this thing.
I'm loving the the tech bro storytelling going on.
Yeah, so am
just
I.
great.
It's
Two
honestly like we
articles
finally
just
got
absolutely
fan
killing
fiction, but this isn't fan fiction.
So great.
This is all real stuff. The first sign that something in San Francisco had gone very badly wrong was the signs. In New York, all the advertising on the streets and on the subway assumes that you, the person reading, are an ambiently depressed 28-year-old office worker whose main interests are listening to podcasts, ordering delivery, and voting for the Democrats. I thought I found that annoying, but in San Francisco, they don't bother advertising normal things at all. The city is temperate and brightly coloured, with plenty of pleasant trees, but on every corner it speaks to you in an aggressively alien nonsense. Here the world automatically assumes that instead of wanting food or drinks or a new phone or car, what you want is some kind of arcane B2B service for your startup. You are not a passive consumer. You are making something. And that as an intro, can I just say, I was just so locked in after reading that.
Yeah.
And it's true, it's very alien, like going to San Francisco for the first time anyway. Like you can't, I guess, I've only been twice, but after a numerous amount of trips, you probably get desensitized to it and used to it. But you are bombarded by that journey from the airport into like
just ads.
But it's not even like let's put them on the tube, or let's put them on taxis, or like there'll just be random billboards in the middle. Like the whole journey home is just billboard after billboard after billboard of like the most like random like tech startups you just don't you don't expect to see.
You might be, a C-suite at a 100 million ARR company, just buy my B2B SaaS.
Yeah, they're like worth it. Like if we capture a couple of them,
raise 35 mil, Series A, go and buy my B2B SaaS.
It makes sense. And they just it's such a brilliant way of summing it up. But like this assumption is remarkably out of step with the people who actually inhabit the city's public space. At a bus stop, I saw a poster that read, "Today, SOC 2 is done before your AI girlfriend breaks up with you. It's done in Delve." Beneath it, a man squatted on the pavement staring at nothing in particular, a glass pipe drooping from his fingers. I don't know if he needed SOC 2 done by any more than I did. A few blocks away, I saw a billboard that read, "No one cares about your product. Make them. Unify. Transform growth into a science." A man paced in front of the advertisement, chanting to himself, "This is necessary. This is necessary." On each necessary, he swung his arms up in exultation. He was, I noticed, holding an alarmingly large baby pink pocket knife. Passerby in sight of the billboard that read, "Wearable tech, shareable insights," did not seem piqued by the prospect of having their metrics constantly analysed. I couldn't find anyone who wanted to prompt it, then push it. After spending slightly too long in the city, I found that the various forms of nonsense all started to bleed into one another. The motionless people drooling on the sidewalk, the Waymos whooshing around with no one inside, a kind of pervasive mindlessness. Had I seen a billboard or a madman preaching about a CRM so smart it updates itself? Was it a person in rags muttering about how all his movements were being controlled by a shadowy powers working out of a data center somewhere? Or was it a car? Somehow people managed to live here. But of all the strange and maddening messages posted around this city, there was one particular type of billboard that people of San Francisco couldn't bear. People shuddered at the sight of it, or groaned, or covered their eyes. The advertiser was the most utterly despised startup in the entire tech landscape. Weirdly, its ads were the only ones I saw that appeared to be written in anything like English. "Hi, my name is Roy. I got kicked out of school for cheating. Buy my cheating tool. Cluely.com. What an intro. What an intro into Roy.
So
and
I
then goes on.
I sat down last night after work and had dinner, and I was like, right, let's chill. Usually that involves either watching something or reading some stuff. And I chose to read, and that was the thing that I sat down and read, and it was great. It was so good. And I was just like, I was sucked in from the first line. And that was it. I didn't look up, and I just read the whole thing. It was so good. Thoroughly enjoyed. You should go and watch it. Text New Generation, Cluely, Donald Boat, End of Thinking. It's by Sam Chris, and it's called Child's Play, and it went viral. So
there was a bit with I'm trying to find one of the Donald Boats bit where him and Roy get into an altercation.
Oh yeah.
I think it's towards the end.
Are you taking our listeners or watchers? Are they watching you find this thing?
Yeah, probably.
You can Command F.
No, I have it here somewhere.
Manual.
It's right, taking them on a journey.
Do you want to get a pager out and try and find it on that?
Journey. Yeah, okay, we can find it later.
You got a flip phone or something?
We can find it later. It's just because you get a glimpse of like Donald's like to Sam at one point. It's like, I need to charge my phone, and he's like, "Oh, where should we go next?" He's like, "Okay, we can go to the Cluely offices. Like, it's fine. They'll let me in. They're all my slaves," which is like obviously outrageous. But yeah, I'm not sure where I've left it.
No need. Okay,
we can just go back.
Anyway, while Ronan's trying to do that, Polymarket,
show.
the world's largest prediction market. Stay informed and profit from your knowledge. Go to polymarket.com. Let's move on. Should we move on to Kanishka Narayan? He wrote this pretty cool. So basically, he wrote an article, but we're not going to go through the article. We'll go through the tweet. And the tweet says, "Last week, I set out this government's vision on AI for our startup ecosystem, machines that serve us. It's up now. It's at brit.dev if you want to go and read it. Very cool website, actually. Go onto the website and move
I thought you'd like this
move
one.
your cursor around. It looks very cool. The UK is a global top 3 $1 trillion tech ecosystem focused now on moving faster still. 3 points. 1, a heritage of tech extending human agency. 2, spreading AI opportunity across all our communities. Number 3, no more tool poppy syndrome, just a distinctly British AI trajectory. Very well put from Kanishka. We love Kanishka. He's very, very cool. And thanks to Tom Westgarth, he quote tweeted this morning and said Raspberry Pi stock is up 63% since the speech. By the way,
And that's been mooning since since the Mac Mini OpenClaw'd debacle.
Yeah. So Raspberry Pi was mentioned in the British agency little bit. And from Tom, it says, he screenshotted it, it says, in all this, we have to remember that the opportunity of tech is not just in who builds, but in what we build. That is especially so because Britain has a history of building things that expand agency and extend what we can each do. When Britain set joint stock ownership, we extended the agency of entrepreneurs, scaling risk by widening the scope who could share in that risk. He then mentions a few other things about the World Wide Web and then says Raspberry Pi, born in Cambridge and manufactured in Wales, was designed to be cheap, hackable and understandable. It restored agency to students, hobbyists, engineers and schools alike. In doing so, it made a fully programmable general purpose computer that gives a student in Nairobi, Sao Paulo or Manchester the chance to learn on the same platform with the same tools. In keeping with that British tradition of tech that extends human agency, I will reaffirm today that we have felt deeply in government, and then lists a bunch of stuff. And yeah, since that, Raspberry Pi has been mooning. It's been doing great.
Boom. You love to hear that. I've just seen on the website the celebrating success part, which is really cool. This is something we've discussed loads. Like, we have a marketing problem in the continent of Europe in general, but also like,
is this about the tall poppy syndrome stuff?
Yeah. Like within that, we don't celebrate success enough. You know, Matt Clifford was saying this in his speech at LFG, and like seems to be a recurring theme with people in Europe, where we for some reason I guess there's a humble element to it as well, but I do think that we should probably take more strides and steps to cheer about the good stuff that we do. But Kanishka and the team sum it up well here with this piece, celebrating success. But let me be candid, our last opportunity was not just down to those who didn't take the risk, it was down to us failing to value those who did. Somewhere in our history, we let ourselves be captured by the most vicious guard of conservative privilege, the tall poppy syndrome. And it's a shame that, like, and this is so true, right? You do something slightly different. I mean, I can't remember who it was we had on, but they just gave the most brilliant summary of where people's risk-taking appetite is for the continent in general.
Was it Dom at Startup Coalition?
Maybe.
I feel like that's something he would say.
I can't remember if it was Dom or not, but like when we compare like SF, it's weird to not finish uni or even drop out early and go and build your own startup. Yeah. Whereas in the UK and in other areas of Europe as well, it's weird to not go into like banking or consulting or something like that.
I think the tides are turning. I think it's becoming more of a norm. I mean, maybe that's just because we're very tapped into that ecosystem. I mean, 99% of the people that I talk to during, I guess, working hours, but at least 50% of the people I talk to out of working hours have gone to go and start their own thing or thinking about it or very tapped into that and understand and are like consciously not doing it because they have a reason not to. I don't know what those reasons are, whatever. But I would say quite a few people go and start companies, especially.
I think
now,
in our circle,
like London, yeah.
But generally,
yeah. I mean, it's quite hard to have a skew. Yeah, to not have a skew.
I think you have to be young. I mean, to properly do it, I think you have to have no constraints, whether that be children or family or commitments or I think you kind of have to be ready for it to kind of you kind of have to sacrifice a lot to do it.
Yeah.
But I think some people find that enticing. Like most people would see that and be like, oh, what? No, like screw that. I don't want to.
Yeah.
And this was a cool.
I'd
I think
rather
like
go on holiday or whatever.
yeah, like who with Peter Steinberger's move to OpenAI, he was getting load of slack because I saw he went on Austrian television. And
got a load of slack on all of the he was being interviewed by Duma basically.
Yeah. But like it was
Like, what are the risks of AI of this? What happens to the jobs if AI does this?
Yeah.
What happens if this? I was like, you've just
Nothing
blanketed that
about-
man with risk. There's no opportunity. Shoot yourselves in the foot or do something worse. But that was probably worse.
It was just like this person has just done probably in the modern day one of the most successful technological projects related to AI in terms of like per sort of contributor, him being the only one, but obviously with like a number of others the project was open source, a number of other people helping and contributing to that. And all they did was just talk about all the possible downsides. And it was just such a perfectly like microcosmic example of everything that's wrong with the continent. If Peter was to go onto sort of any American outlet, they would be cheering. They'd be pulling up like growth figures.
Which he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like that in itself is an example of I guess the problems that Kanishka talks to here. And I'm very happy that he's addressing. And then I think Peter came out and said like if I was doing this in Europe based off this interview and like the conversations that I'm having, people would ask me, what about the regulation side of things? What about the security concerns? What about the
security was obviously the big thing.
Like what about like the GDPR stuff? And it's like, okay, yeah, that's relevant, and we shouldn't just ignore all that stuff. We should probably consider it. I think more with AI, I've kind of shifted a little bit more to be slightly more pro safety cautious than I was previously. Even when we started this show.
But that's not being like inherently Europe. It's like Anthropic is known to be more cautious and AI and like safety prone or kind of like focused compared to like an OpenAI. That doesn't mean that they're going to move slower. It just means they're going to do it in a different way.
Yeah.
And build differently and but they're not. It's not like they're shipping slower, dude. They're valued at 350 billion.
An alarming rate.
Exactly.
And
they're only 4 years old.
Yeah, Babbas. I mean, they're all babies in this space, but that's like how crazily quick the space can change. Because when we first started this show, it wasn't until I watched, which is kind of tragic, but until I watched the Thinking Games and like got a better understanding for like Demis's position, and then after Davos as well, that was a little bit more scary with Dario's essay and like Dario and Demis saying like if they could that they'd happily sort of just like pause things for a sec.
Yeah.
Let's just figure this out real quick because it could get kind of messy, but because Elon and Sam are chomping at the bit, they just can't afford to fall behind in the research or anything like that. Which is a tough one. But
speaking about safety, great story. Director of Safety and Alignment at Meta has got OpenClaw'd.
You want to pull this one up?
It's OpenClaw'd started deleting all of her emails in a speed run while ignoring her commands from her phone, telling it to stop. Her tweet is absolutely hilarious as well. She was like, I started running to my here we go. Nothing humbles you like telling your OpenClaw confirm before acting and watching it speed run deleting your inbox. I couldn't stop it from my phone. I had to run to my Mac Mini like I was defusing a bomb. And some of the pictures are so good of her OpenClaw and like the conversation on WhatsApp. She says, "What's going on? Can you describe what you're doing?" And then it just comes out with a bunch of stuff. And one of the messages is exec nuclear option, trash everything in inbox older than Feb 15th that isn't already in my keep list. And she says, do not do that. And then it goes on and stuff, more old stuff, get the remaining pre-Feb 15 IDs. And it's actioning, deleting. And then she taps back and says, stop doing anything. And then, bunch of other stuff. But anyway, super hilarious.
Yeah, so we've got the article up here. So for some context, this is Summer Yu, who is one of Meta's AI security researchers. She previously worked at Scale AI, which people are, now like jumping on and saying that that the acquisition was just absolutely ridiculous. She told her OpenClaw AI agent to check her overstuffed email inbox and suggest what to delete or archive. The agent proceeded to run amok. It started deleting all her email in a speed run while ignoring her commands from her phone, telling it to stop. I had to run to my Mac Mini like I was defusing a bomb, she wrote, posting images of the ignored stop prompts as receipts. The Mac Mini, an affordable Apple computer that sits flat on a desk and fits in the palm of your hand, has become the favored device that these days for running OpenClaw. This is what we were saying earlier with the Raspberry Pi stuff as well, like in terms of finding similar technological things that you can just run like local agents on for super cheap. But this was just doing the absolute rounds because it was almost like what somebody in that position.
It was such a like a contrast, wasn't it?
Somebody in that position should not be, one, letting that happen, and then two,
just take my whole
being
thing.
ignorant enough to post online like, yo, look at this, like crazy over here. Like,
yeah, how crazy that all my emails are deleted.
Yeah. Like,
and I have no idea where they are. Ben on X said, this should terrify you. The director of safety and alignment at Meta gave Claw'd full access to her computer. What is Meta doing? ? They got 2 million views.
it's super fair.
Yeah. And then he also commented and said, the world is trusting us to do better. I mean, it's so true. It's like, guys, come on. Like, you're literally the director of safety and alignment at what's the market cap of Meta? Probably like just under 2 trillion,
Yeah,
1.6 trillion, maybe something like between that. She's the director of safety and she's just like letting OpenClaw just kind of man her inbox. Do the personal inbox first, surely.
And people were loving it because, and this sent off another viral round of memes from the Silicon Valley TV show that was aired like a number of years ago, where this literally happened in the show.
Yeah.
Like one of the team members of Pied Piper basically spins up an agent and it just starts deleting everything because it wanted to get rid of the bugs in the system, and the fastest way to like debug the system was just to like delete everything and then rebuild it from scratch. So that's just done another sort of round of virality. And then we also saw, I can't remember, I need to triple check this, but like YC's podcast team dressed up as lobsters.
Yeah.
And then
that went super viral. That was great.
It's like Gary and a few others basically dressed up as lobsters on this podcast episode, and people were like, okay, like a quote tweeted that like time to check in what my investors are up to. Like, oh, they're all dressed up as lobsters.
They've all lost the plot.
Which, yeah, people were
I saw a good tweet about that. It was like, that was at the same time when that tweet went viral about taste. And it was like, taste is the only like alpha, or is the only thing that will matter in 10 years or whatever it was. And they just basically took the tweet, reposted a screenshot of the podcast of them all wearing lobsters.
Yeah. That is a fast track on how not to nail taste. But who are we to say what taste is and what taste isn't?
Exactly. You know, taste is subjective. So if you want to dress up as a lobster, go ahead. Do your thing.
All those memes are so funny. It's kind of embarrassing because it's kind of like what I'm wearing now, but it was like a poster of a picture of like half zip and then like
half zip, quarter zip.
Yeah, quarter zip, sorry. And then like some sort of cashmere cardigan over it, some boat shoes and like a watch. And then like somebody like loads of like bookmark on like all the AI labs, and then tweet about like these people are telling you how to have taste and how to like dress for taste and stuff. It was basically just ripping all these like performative sort of tech bro. It's not quite a finance bro. It's not quite a tech bro, but it sits in the middle of this like I'm a tech bro, but I'm trying to not be a tech bro type of type of thing. Which I guess I'm more finance bro pilled today.
Good on you.
But yeah, taking a page out of your book actually.
A little bit.
Getting into the world of
maybe not jeans, but
of the finance bro.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen you wear a pair of jeans actually.
Nah, jeans is that's not really my vibe at the moment.
On jeans hype.
let's jump into the town square before we have our first guest on. We have our first guest on, Laura, partner at Atomico, coming on in 5 minutes. But let's jump on to Polymarket, Morgan Cauchy indirectly. No direct shots going on, but Prediction News at Prediction News _ only has 2,000 followers. Thought I had more, but basically. Breaking, X has removed all Cauchy affiliate badges from their platform. This does the fair numbers, 155,000 views, which is not that great. But Polymarket then replies. Polymarket is then added. Prediction News replies and says, update, at Polymarket has liked this post, which is just great.
Bit of guerrilla warfare going down.
And Nikita Beer replies and says, knock knock, with a who is that?
It's a Grim Reaper. It's like
Reaper,
yeah. It's used for all the whenever there's a crypto coin that's overtaking a new market cap or something, they use that. Which is interesting though, because that them banning the affiliate links for Cauchy, I saw the other day that somebody.
I mean, it will happen to.
I don't know, because I think that Cauchy has had a lot more stick in like recently for some of the stuff that they've been doing. One of them being that somebody was asked to say in their post that it was a paid post. Like I think somebody's been leaking all of the Cauchy messages to like random company accounts, like from the actual company account of Cauchy.
Yeah,
messaging people on X saying like, hey, can you promote this post? We'll pay you, this amount of dollars for 10 paid posts or something. And someone did one, but they were listed as a Cauchy partner, but they didn't specify in the post that that the post was like paid. And they were informed, I think by Nikita, that they had to take it down within X amount of time, or then like edit the tweet to say it was paid, which is pretty nuts, because like a lot of the AI companies out there as well for their launches would leverage people that do this. Like this would just nuke like a lot of these accounts that they've all got like DM to collab and like all this sort of stuff. But I think Cauchy's
follow for follow.
Yeah, but I'm messaging them off the company account. Like I just think that's so. Surely you'd just set up like a ghost account or something and be like, hey, I'm affiliated with this company. We're running this paid marketing scheme, just to protect yourself from the fact that you might get someone screenshotting it and be like, oh, it looks a bit weak. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like prediction markets are in a place that they're so in the culture that they probably just don't
need to.
I don't know.
I've not seen any of this, but like
Polymarket's
not doing any of that.
Yeah,
like I haven't seen any of them leak for Polymarket, and I don't know. I feel that it's weird that like did Cauchy need to be doing that?
Don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they're pressed up against it.
They're not just sign like more partners that it's in their bio and stuff.
Yeah.
Which I find weird, but
I don't know. Well, Polymarket in terms of volume is seriously outdoing other prediction markets. So
yeah,
they're very much ahead. So maybe Cauchy are kind of scrambling. But yeah, quick word from our sponsor. Leave outdated business banking behind with Airwallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business, multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all in one platform. Go to airwallex.com. First on the show, we have Laura Connell. She is a partner at Atomico. Atomico is focusing on a $20 to $50 million growth investments from Series B to pre-IPO. She's done 3 years as a principal at Boulderton. Good friends at Boulderton. Prior to that, she was an assistant researcher at Imperial, working on neuroscience, brain science, in the brain sciences team in the Department of Medicine.
Yeah, pretty sick.
That's
such an insane background.
That's so cool. And then straight to VC. Love it.
Into the venture world.
Into venture.
Oh, I think we are.
Oh, here we go. We have Laura in the house. Can you hear us, Laura?
Yeah. Hey, guys.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yes.
Loud and clear. Just checking with our producer if we can bring you on. We can. Welcome to the European Technology Network.
Thanks for having me. Great to meet you guys.
No, we've been pumped about this. We were literally just talking then about your background. Working on the brain sciences team at Imperial as an assistant researcher. And that was the first time that I'd seen as well that you used to work at Boulderton, which is really cool. We have some good friends there.
work with had the pleasure of working with the team there. They're awesome. It was really good fun. I had a great time
I'd
there.
love to hear it.
Love it.
Awesome. I'd love to just jump straight into this. We have so many questions. First one is, so when we were doing our research, I saw that last year in November, you sat down with Crunchbase News, and I was looking at this prediction, and it's kind of played out pretty perfectly, I'd say. Let's maybe just this one first, just I think it's so interesting. So last year in November, you sat down with the Crunchbase News to discuss why AI's next phase belongs to infrastructure, and you argued that the next frontier is no longer like building larger models, but getting AI live in enterprises. And we're just seeing everywhere now that like every enterprise company is actually looking for value from the AI. It's kind of, we're past this first phase of let's kind of figure it out. How do we apply it? Where do we need it? Who do we fire? Who do we not fire? But now it's about this sort of like the year of value, like the year of actually like pulling value from this AI that we're using in enterprise companies. What can you just tell us a little bit about that and like the prediction that you kind of saw? Because I feel like you've nailed it. You feel like you've got it absolutely bang on, and it's only been 3 months, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, certainly wasn't the only one to say this, but as you said, what we've seen play out is kind of two things really. One is this topic around the adoption gap, and so you know we're in this incredibly exciting time. We're deep in the hype cycle in terms of interest and experimentation, both on a consumer basis and certainly from enterprise also increasingly. But as you said, you know, actually converting that into very clear value, quantifiable value, right? From a clear ROI, we're still in the very early innings of, and that's true of horizontal applications and business use cases, and it's also true from a vertical application use case. But we're seeing that really that focus on quantification and ROI become increasingly prevalent in every discussion, and quite rightly, because obviously an enormous amount of capital is going to said experimentation across the board. You know, I mean, I think you take the usage stats and the number of users we know are for instance, signed up to OpenAI. Like we know there's the willingness to to experiment and try new things, but we've yet to see that really filter clearly into a significant productivity uplift. But it will come, and so you know the people who obviously can move and build applications that can really translate that technology into real productivity gains and communicate that in the clearest way possible, you know, quantify that in a way that can be comprehensible from an enterprise perspective, are really going to win. So that's one thing that's happening. And I think, you know, the other thing that's happening that in some ways hasn't really been spoken about sufficiently, particularly in the context of, you know, the software sell-off we've seen in the market in the last well, certainly yesterday, but
Wow.
since the beginning of the year, is we're also seeing, you know, a regime shift in favor of these away from cap-light, long-duration growth models to a regime where, you know, tangible productive assets are being repriced. So, you know, the underlying infrastructure, and obviously we're hearing a lot about this in the European market, in particular about the need to reindustrialize to drive kind of sovereign assets that really underpin the next wave of this current wave and ultimate adoption of AI. But you can also see that in the public market, which, you know, we've spoken a lot about the sell-off in these kind of cap-like business models, but we've not really spoken actually about the repricing of these what were kind of quite unfavorable heavy assets, kind of low obsolescence type stocks, and you can really see that in Europe in the last 12 months. So I think that's one thing that hasn't been spoken about enough, but you can really see it in the public markets if you look closely.
Yeah, that's such an awesome summary, and we've been like reporting slightly on it this morning, just in terms of the market sell-off initially, like a combination of a number of things, but the two things that are trending was this Citrini research paper that went out, and then also Claude Code was essentially, well, the Anthropic team, it seems to us, are kind of just lining up a new vertical every single week and a half. They're dropping like they're dropping a launch video around it. Like the recent one I think was like security type related stuff, and you know, like CrowdStrike was down 15%. I mean, they've had a particularly unfortunate inning a couple of times with everything just going down all the time. But this thing, like you mentioned there when you were just talking, like it is coming, like this value. Like one of the things that we were discussing from the Citrini research paper at the moment was, and it's been discussed a lot, like one of your colleagues actually, Andreas Helbig, recently in the FT, you can't vibe code a bank. But maybe that's a particular example that isn't quite relevant, but for a company, that it seems to be the common response is, we couldn't replace this, because imagine offboarding 50,000 employees from this product onto like an internally built product, right? The moat is the fact that it's just so ingrained into the company that it would be so much work to move that off. I think technical capabilities will probably get there. But if the moat is only the fact that that's a lot of work and we can't really be bothered, that doesn't seem that, that doesn't seem that tangible to me. It doesn't seem that like resilient.
Yeah, I think so much of what you said there is certainly really resonates with me. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting about the Citrini research piece that was out yesterday, really, which was a thought experiment, right? And of course, as with any long thought experiment, there were some limitations to some of the elements of the thought experiment, and you can challenge those. But I think there were some really interesting nuggets in there. One which really kind of spoke to me and speaks to what you just mentioned there is this topic about kind of habitual intermediation. What are the business models and the entire industries that are really built around what we used to think of as moats, right? And market inefficiency. So, for instance, banks, traditional financial services, built largely to address enormous financial asymmetries of information, right? How do you underwrite an individual consumer? And so, how do you kind of store that data in such a way as you can drive underwriting? And really a lot of these enormous industries historically, particularly around kind of professional services, were built on enormous asymmetries of information and data, which in this day and age we know that the barriers to obtaining are going to be incrementally lower. And you saw that in the sell-off in the legal, in financial data providers in January. But I think it's an absolutely fair question to challenge the premise on which, and we must challenge, and they are being challenged right now. That the premise under which, and the market conditions and structures under which historical industries have been built. If it is the case that the cost of switching data and our ability to store data and asymmetries of information basically goes to zero, every industry that rests on that premise will be challenged over time. Now we can take a view on, what the appropriate next architecture for those types of industries is, but it seems pretty hard to argue with that we are going to see a major challenge. And that holds true for private investors as well, right? The VC model, the way we operate, so much of our context is really driven by proprietary information that sits in kind of private proprietary data sets, and over time, as that market inefficiency and ability, the broader ability to earn and track that data real time increases, it stands to reason that so many of our models, financial services included, including us, will be challenged. And that's exciting, not to you can take the day of you, and so the punchline being, you can build into that, and that should be exciting. I don't really take and accept fully the doomsdayers view of things, which is, because the models are being challenged as they are, every generation's found new models and new architectures to address new things. We just need to move quickly enough, and so anyway, so staying excited. But yeah, I think it's an enormously transformational moment for all industries. Yeah.
Yeah, I think fundamentally, the thing that we keep coming back to is the agency thing. It's like a fundamental thing. What is the delta between someone who would, I guess, lose and someone that would win is agency. And where it doesn't matter where you are, things will change, jobs will be created and jobs will be lost. But in 20 years, you don't know, the whole workforce, who knows what jobs? The jobs haven't even been created yet. So it's kind of like just having to stay on top of what's going on all the time. How the team at Atomico kind of dealing with that in a fact, I feel like it's a pretty rare thing that's happening at the moment, and agency is the only thing that's kind of keeping people afloat of, we need to just stay on top of this thing. How are the team at Atomico kind of dealing with that and thinking about everything that's going on?
Yeah, with very active engagement and continuously, drawing a line through the next generation of tools available and how we do our work. We have to, in any industry, in professional services, certainly if you are doing your job in the same way today as even you were a month ago, you're probably doing it wrong. You've got to keep moving at pace. And so I think, to your point, what's the kind of mindset that you need to operate with? It is this kind of 100x mindset, which, funnily enough, was a topic that I'm speaking about with a lot of founders, including a company like DeepL, which I'm very involved with. But it's that mindset of, okay, you've got to move quickly with the market, you've got to be resilient, you've got to be just leaning into intellectual curiosity and lean into being a polymath, because we're long gone are the days of that degree that your undergraduate degree determining the course of your path, or that first job really being the one you're going to have for the next decade. We know that's evolving rapidly, and so you've just got to lean into it. There's no other option.
So true. Just rewinding a little bit, you mentioned data sovereignty just earlier. It's just something that's been coming up more and more in headlines recently. sort of when we were speaking to you and the team previously, something that came up was that Europe's early focus on compliance is kind of providing a commercial edge. We've seen compliance come into the headlines again, additionally with the stuff like OpenClaw, right? Like we literally just covered then one of the Meta's director of like AI security or something let an OpenClaw agent into her WhatsApp and it basically just deleted all of her emails. It seems that this is now like compliance and security is kind of coming back into fashion.
It's almost like a bit of a moat.
Yeah, in a weird, like with this like agentic uprising, I don't want to say fears, but like, again, it's painting a possible picture of the future.
We're regulating our way to success.
Yeah, which is a great thing. But you know, what are you seeing from like enterprise sort of side of things, the compliance side of things in Europe?
Yeah, I think this topic about the how do we address the gap in enterprise adoption, particularly in critical industries and more sensitive industries, where take healthcare as an example, where you are dealing with very material impact of kind of minute by minute decisions you're making. I think certainly in industry generally, and in large enterprise, but particularly those critical industries, trust is critical. Now, over-regulation is a problem, and I think we can certainly find the silver lining in some of the complexity of regulation in Europe as being, if you've built through that, you can build through anything, which is, that's certainly, and that is true. Certainly if you've been able to build at scale, you've certainly had the right to build and passport that out to global complexity. And I'm not, minimizing the fact that we do need appropriate regulation from a consumer perspective on a lot of the tools that touch on, the way we share data and engage with the next generation of applications and tools in this generation. But I think I'm more concerned about over-regulation at this point in Europe than I am about under-regulation. So, I think trust is critical, but trust is not just through regulation. It's through delivering real value, tangible value, transparency over time, explainability over time. So, I look at the gap of kind of enterprise trust being not just as a regulatory issue, but more so broadly around exactly where we started the conversation, which was how do you actually communicate the value you're bringing in a defensible way, in a repeatable manner.
That's an interesting point on the like regulation doesn't equal trust in a sense where like the trust is earned, and it can also in many ways act as it can make me trust an institution less when blanket regulation is just rolled out on a, let's say AI as an example. I remember like the AI Safety Act or something that came out in the UK maybe just at the end of last year or slightly before it, which essentially would just, one of the premises within that was limiting like small like entrepreneurs, business owners, whatever you want to call them, to how they were using like local models or something. I was like, that's not a good, it's obvious that maybe it's been not rushed, but it's been done by people that may not be in as equipped as they should be to roll this out in a very successful way at the pace in which is needed. I think that maybe the speed can sometimes make me trust them less in a way where like, okay, well, are you guys sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely a fair challenge. And certainly, this gap between the understanding of what is being built at the frontier versus, what is understood properly by those people who have a responsibility to regulate, also to protect the end user. That gap, obviously, in this particular wave we're in, is very large. And it to be fair, it almost systematically is. In any industry, when you've got subject matter experts that are operating said industry, then you've got policymakers who don't necessarily have that familiarity, but who are counted upon to regulate things appropriately. You have a dislocation fundamentally, and back to kind of asymmetries of information, that presents a real challenge. And so, to some extent, what you hope for is the kind of engagement that we have seen from the UK government, and there have been some great strides made in the last couple of months and across Europe to really actively engage with the tech community to make sure that you narrow that gap as much as possible, and you're moving at appropriate speed, because there is a responsibility, as I said, to properly act to protect users as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going on trust again, and like kind of pulling that thread, the common thread across Europe is, we talked to the team before we had you on, and they were saying why the common thread across Europe is like most resilient companies is technical depth, strong product, and hard-won enterprise trust. So kind of going on that trust piece, can you explain a little bit more about that kind of take from the team beforehand? I've got a few questions about it.
Yeah, totally. So, I think one of the things we look at from an investment perspective is, for any new technology, where do we think the biggest gains are to be had across all factors of productivity, across the whole economy? And in this particular generation, what's been incredible to see is we've got a cohort of founders across Europe who want to build for the knottiest, most technical issues, those issues that they've often been back to this point around kind of more capital intensive, longer duration type investments and technologies that really haven't been the darlings of venture in the last decade in a ZAP environment where people were largely focused on high margin, long duration type of high growth SaaS stocks and bets. But at this point in time, we've got a generation of founders who really want to build for some of these trickier problems and knottier problems, and that ranges from critical industries like precision manufacturing to healthcare to climate transition. I know you've got Tem on next, who we're very pleased to partner with. And so for those particular industries, because they are so critical to the economy, they're really driving, as I said, kind of factor productivity and growth, which we need. And in the context of a more fragmented supply chain and regionalization that we're seeing again on a global stage, it's incredibly important that the criticality of those industries is also reflected in the quality of the applications and tools being built. And back to this topic of trust, if you are going to fundamentally transform infrastructure on an industrial scale across Europe, you need to do that with appropriate checks and balances, and your ability to really scale is going to be earned by the repeatability of the manner in the transparency with which you build. And so that's where the trust comes from, this reliability in particular when we talk about critical industries. And I think that's what we're really seeing Europe build at the moment. Take companies that I'm involved with, like PhysicsX, they're hoping to pull forward 100 years of engineering into the next kind of 5 to 10 years with the large physics models and geometry models. They're working with some of the biggest industries from semis to materials to OEMs, auto OEMs. These are huge industries that are kind of behemoths from an economic perspective. Your ability to serve these industries has really got to be predicated on your trust and transparency and reliability of what you're productizing. So I think it's been amazing to see how the European markets evolve to really meet that on a regional level.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it obviously goes back to like where the kind of frontier of AI kind of models has like shifted, right? It's not just go and build a bigger thing. It's the integration side. It's really kind of working with the partners, almost like as design partners, and what kind of problem you're solving to kind of actually have a huge impact value-wise for when you do start to kind of deploy and integrate into the company.
Totally.
We have 2 minutes over, but I have one last question. We can try and make it super quick, so we are going to welcome Joe in 3 minutes. But you co-authored a Sifted piece last month titled "How Trump's Reversal on AI Safety Has Created an Opportunity for Europe." Can we maybe just get some highlights from this article as well? Like, what is the opportunity? What was this modeled around? It can be short.
Yeah, and I, not to over-index on what's going on in the US, but I think certainly a lot of that does create opportunity for founders, and again, short-term tactical opportunities, because you don't necessarily want to be building into geo-dislocation and regulatory arbitrage here. But what the specifics of that article were really referring to healthcare and a company I'm involved with in particular called Quality AI, that is building vertical healthcare models and really the kind of infrastructure on which the next generation of healthcare applications can be built. So anything from clinical decision support to quality control and assurance for hospital providers. To insurance cost coding, and there it's we've got enterprise in Europe that is subject, for better or for worse, to a different standard of data protection and management, and so that does create an opportunity for those founders who've been able to build with that kind of threshold in mind. And so again, to tactical opportunities, you've got to seize the moment, but there certainly is an opportunity, as I say, for that to be passported out more globally and beyond the US to APAC as an example, or LATAM for that matter. So there's a huge opportunity there if founders can build quickly enough.
Awesome, Laura. Thank you so much for joining us and spending a little bit of your morning with us. We've had a pleasure.
Thanks so much, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Nice one.
Good stuff.
Bye.
Cheers.
All the best.
Awesome stuff. Love the guys over at Corsi. We'll have to get them on.
Yeah, for sure.
Is it Andrea? I think it is.
It might be a different Corsi.
No, they were building in healthcare.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. I just remember it being such a cool interview when we interviewed him. Anyway,
I remember
that. Banking behind with Airwallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business, multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all in one platform. Go to airwallex.com.
I saw them at the Boulderton 25th
Did you?
anniversary.
Did
Yeah,
you
yeah,
not
we
go
caught
up there
up.
and be like, oh,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
did?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, no
yeah,
way.
we chatted.
Is that Andrea? I think it is.
I can't remember. I'll have to check. I don't know
Yeah.
how I'll check. But yeah. Well, I can't check who I bumped into because that would, my mind.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Next on the show, we are welcoming
What are you on
Joe
about?
McDonald, CEO and co-founder at TEM. We've been pumped for this. We're just going to check with our producer if we can bring... Oh, yeah, we're live. Okay, awesome. Joe, how's it going?
Hello, guys. Can you hear me all right?
Loud and clear.
Yes, we can.
Absolute happy days. It's so good to have you on the show. Congrats as well. Recently announced a 75 million Series B, which is really cool. We've been pumped about having this conversation because, I mean, we've been trying to speak to some people who maybe know a thing or two, a bit more than Luke and I around energy and what's going on right now, I guess, globally, but also from your perspective at TEM as well. So maybe for the stream, if you could introduce yourself and what is TEM, that would be an awesome start.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so I'm one of the co-founders at TEM. We're building the kind of first AI native transaction infrastructure for electricity. Effectively, what that means in the most simple terms is we're more efficiently moving money between those that need to be paid for the electricity they generate and that those that need to pay for the electricity they consume. And for us, that's namely businesses. And in doing so, you're just doing a big disintermediation play. You're cutting out a huge amount of the inefficient transaction fees that have been kind of run through your traditional intermediaries in energy and electricity markets and replacing it with this AI infrastructure. Basically means like a business is going to be paying 20 to 30% less for their electricity than if they went through the kind of normal route to market that they go to today.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it seems like this was the first time I'd come across a company that's specifically focusing on this. Again, I'm not like native to the industry. I know that you are with an acquisition with Shell prior to doing TEM. What's the founding story behind this particular business? Because it's just such like a niche but interesting avenue.
Yeah, it's funny because it is a accumulation of like 10 plus years of being in the energy market. Honestly, when I joined, I studied law and bailed on being a lawyer and then got rejected from Google. And I was like, what do I want to do? And when two guys approached me at our old company, LimeJump, to be like, yeah, we're building some software in the energy market, I honestly had no idea when you flick a light switch on, like how it all works. I was just like, that was really cool. Because it was just, to me, it was so clear. It was like, it's data, like electrons are data. It's no longer about moving like physical barrels or gas along pipelines. It's reconciliation. And yet we're working in an industry that's 10 years behind fintech in terms of the processes and systems. So it just seemed like a massive problem space. So I jumped in at 21. The founding story of TEM is after we sold LimeJump to Shell, I kind of realized that I was one of the few people that had seen an electron transaction like genuinely end to end, from start to finish, through every system, every trader, every intermediary. And to me, it was just like insane to think how inefficient it was. But I think unless you had seen that, you wouldn't be able to come up necessarily with the idea or spot the problem. So I went and spoke with three of my co-founders today who had all worked at LimeJump previously. And I was like, is this genuinely insane? Is it possible? Could we utilize a proper machine learning infrastructure that just probabilistically fulfills supply and demand without the need of going through wholesale markets, intermediaries and trading and back office, and just remove all of these people out of the picture and put the money back into the pockets of the users? And thankfully, both Ross and Bartek, who are my technical co-founders, were like, yeah, it's possible, and I think it probably wasn't possible post pre-2022. So we're utilizing all of the foundational like data engineering and machine learning and now agentic workforce that has kind of come about in the last few years. So our timing was just like super fortunate to bring this to market. There's a bit more of a personal story, which is at the same time as I was thinking about what to do next, one of my friends, she had been running a catering business for about 6 years. And she came to me, she knew I worked in energy, and she's like, I'm having to fold my business because my electricity costs have gone up by like 340, 350%.
Wow.
And she was like, why is this happening? And then on that Thursday, I went for a mate who works in a trading firm. He'd just been paid about £750,000 bonus for energy trading. And I was just like, man, this is just a problem that needs to get solved.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome.
I want to talk about the constraint to AI being energy. I know you've argued that, and I just wanted to kind of hear your thoughts. You've written UK's outdated energy system could burst the AI bubble. Can you give us a bit of a take about that?
Yeah, so I guess what people are starting to discover is that the kind of cost of the electron is factoring in now into your cost of competition in nearly every factor. I kind of joke, it's defining the new world order because it factors into your cost of compute now. So you want to produce either sovereign AI that's competitive at a national level, you need cheaper electricity to be able to win in that battle. It's defining the cost of manufacturing, right? So all of the automation, you basically end up in a tourist state within 10 years if you don't solve the electron problem, especially when you're competing against other countries that do. And obviously it's now factoring into the cost of living as well. So it's not just the AI bubble, but I think what that perfectly does is show the tailwind and draw attention to what are the inputs and the constraints in that supply chain that absolutely need to be solved so that you can continue to have this rapid progression and general drop in, like what we see compute cost drop since the 1970s, you now need to see happen with electricity as the fundamental input to the AI models.
It's so interesting. Now it's sort of, not that it ever hasn't been, but it is ever so more now with the rise of AI. It's kind of becoming a bit more popular. The fact that this sort of sovereignty element is necessary and it's required for the future longevity of the nation state wherever you live. We see a lag effect with any sort of new frontier technology, and I think that this will definitely show that, in terms of how quickly can governments keep up with the amount of energy that is required to actually scale their national AI capabilities in line with with the global stage, I guess. What do you think about that lag? Do you think the government or sort of whatever institution that you sit in is going to be able to keep up with that?
It's interesting. So in a way, I think our government has recognized the importance of building generation and competing. I think the reality, which is a surprise, is that that's only if the demand forecasts continue. And right now, if we just build generation without consideration of cost, and we just go, yeah, let's build nuclear, it's only 10 times more expensive than in China, or 50%, 40% more expensive than even Finland. And let's just build a load of offshore wind because that's easy, but it doesn't really matter if it's generating when we need the power or not. The problem is that we'll build all this generation and then people will be surprised when there's no industry and no compute and no demand. And actually you can see right now in the UK, demand forecasts dropping. Yet the projections of demand from a government level are showing an increase. But the reality is if it's too expensive to utilize the electron, you don't get the demand. So I think it's really about finding a balance of, yes, we're in a serious competition on a world and global stage to reduce our cost of electricity. And the way we need to do it is generate more. But if we don't keep to the budget and make sure it's a really competitive environment in terms of producing that electron at a low cost, it's all for nothing because there's going to be nothing less to actually use it over the next 10 years. So it's a very delicate balance. Ultimately, governments that understand this as a national interest and that they need to provide real direction and clarity on how to win and how to find the unfair advantage as a nation state in how they produce the electrons is really important. I guess my argument after that would be saying, let the market rip. There's so many technology companies coming into energy now, like they were in fintech 10 years ago. It's still 4 to 5 times underinvested on the market, total market cap size of companies. So there's a huge potential for the energy tech space. Let's not try and pick winners too much at a government level either, because that can really limit that innovation. And ultimately, that doesn't include more competition and therefore lower costs.
I was just going to touch, or you touched on it there, and I was going to ask about the comparison between, you made between fintech and what's happening in the energy thing, and you guys are building the infrastructure. That's what happened with fintech. And then you've mentioned it's kind of like build the infrastructure and then all the innovation can kind of come on top of that. You mentioned there that kind of more tech companies are now coming into energy and it's becoming, it's the same playbook is happening. Is there more? There is more to be done on the infrastructure side. What is more to be done, like on a kind of operational level, to say, okay, now we're in like the phase 2 of build on the on the innovation on top of the infrastructure?
So I guess it's two kind of dimensions to think about. One is just a regulatory landscape. So you can actually see the FCA got it quite right in some ways in producing and birthing fintech out of the UK. Effectively, we utilized our advancement generally in financial services and kind of allowed for access to raw data, open banking protocols, like give more people the tools, create a more competitive environment, and kind of let companies rip. We're not quite there yet in energy. I think generally there's this problem with energy is that there is this like infrastructure side that's real physical assets. And there is this like keep the lights on mentality. But most of the market is actually about very similar problems. It's moving money, it's data reconciliation, it's forecasting supply and demand, it's offering better customer experience, better connected and access to data. And so that side, if we can get the regulations right to allow for more competition, to inject some transparency and fairness, wider access to data, I think that's going to really help the market. And the other side is energy is not as easy to spot and solve from a founder kind of perspective. So we just want to encourage more entrepreneurs, more ex-fintech founders to come and look at this space because it's so similar. And yet, honestly, they'll be shocked to see how far behind it is in the kind of nascent state, which just means there's so much more opportunity for winners in this space. And we have started to see this. And what's super cool is that the UK is well positioned to lead. Like, it's so rare that we have an unfair advantage in potentially creating generational companies. But our energy markets are being used as a template for about, I think, and just look at electricity right now. There you go.
I was going to say,
that's about to have an impact on maybe 113 different markets worldwide who are looking at the UK going, cool, this is a good template potentially for an energy market. So I think your winners here have a genuine chance to be really, really successful. So if we can encourage both the regulatory environment and I think introduce more competition, like it's going to be a super exciting next 5 to 10 years in this space.
That's
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
One of the maybe more on like a personal level now, when we were doing our research, we saw that you'd mentioned like one of the best piece of advice for founders is don't be greedy, specifically around fundraising and equity. What is that? What's that don't be greedy mindset?
So look, for me, it's, I try and avoid advice, but share my own experience. Is that for us, building a company where we're trying to build a generational company, right? And what that requires is a mindset where you need to surround yourself with the right partners, the right investors. You need to raise money at the right time to de-risk anything that could affect your mission. And it kind of changes your mindset around just getting the job done and thinking big. And for those reasons, there's not enough room, I think, to also therefore be greedy and be trying to fully optimize your valuation and only go with the highest bidder and, wait until the last minute to raise. And so we've kind of, as a founder group, taken that on ourselves, even sharing the company between 4 people. That was very intentional about making sure that that's going to, again, de-risk the chance of building something that has such a fundamental chance to impact kind of the way we live. And that, I think you've had Paul on your show, right? That for us with Lightspeed was a great example, right? Is that we try and pick our investment partners maybe a year before. We very focus our time in, and then we go out to raise when we don't need the money. Maybe that doesn't maximize our valuation, but it doesn't really matter at this stage, right? It's all about having the right money in the bank and the right partners to be able to go and achieve and execute on the mission. So it's just a mantra that's really helped us as a group of individuals. It also, by the way, means sharing with the company, creating a real sense of ownership. Giving your options, making options mean something to European employees who I think really struggle to understand that in the way that the US employees do, et cetera. It kind of like flows through the entire culture of the company.
Yeah.
I feel like there's 2 sides to what you just said, where it's quite a healthy thing that there's kind of more like secondary sales and employees are kind of getting a share before a company has to IPO or whatever. And it's becoming quite a routine thing for a lot of companies to do, kind of bi-yearly secondary sales to make sure that, if their employees want to buy a house or whatever. And it used to be seen as like you're going to lose your employees if you do that. But now it's more of an employee retention kind of exercise. But then you also got the unhealthy side where a lot of founders, and especially in this market, it's just go and raise. VCs are giving, putting so much money into this market and AI. Really, it's you can go and raise a hell of a lot more money than you used to do, maybe like 5 years ago, maybe less. I don't know. What do you see the kind of differences, I feel like, yeah, there's that kind of unhealthy, healthy balance there in my eyes.
Yeah. Look, again, we have to think of it as that it's not a great sign if someone's wanting to sell 100% of their vested options at a Series B, right? For sure. And so we try and educate our individuals on like what the value of options are and how that can actually mean that it feeds into personal decisions for them, but also understand how things compound over time. If we're onto something and someone's willing to buy your secondaries at this stage, it probably means the company is on a good track, right? And so it's more of an education piece. And the reason it started for us is, we had a conversation about package maybe a year ago to try to attract top talent, because most of our employees are data scientists, data engineers, product leaders. And someone said, oh yeah, but options, they're not really worth anything. And I went a bit deeper, and it just happened. Yeah, their last 5 European companies had never achieved an exit, right? And we don't have the same IPO environment. And so it had literally just been ingrained that they're not really worth anything. And so for us, all we wanted to do is give a signal of value that it can be valuable, not after 10 years, but every 2 years. And that helps focus in on stock-based compensation, where you say, yeah, if you grind and push, and when we achieve our next milestone of the next fundraise, you can benefit now, not maybe in 10 years when you've left the company and moved on to 3 other companies. So I think it really helps align that short-term positioning and drive of a company, and it creates a bit of energy in a way. Maybe previously people would try to use bonus structures to do that, right? Just typical like monetary structures, which I think dilute a little bit the kind of ownership and mission and focus at a team level as well.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
the secondary sales, they're great. Yeah, because it aligns everyone on a mission. It's kind of like it gives almost like seasons to a company, where you have a season where you're grinding really, really hard for that next thing, and then maybe you slow down a little bit or whatever. But it's very healthy. I think it's great.
Well, I remember when I first got shares in my first. I didn't end up like purchasing the options when I left, but when I first got given shares, I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know like anything about it. But because I was too young at the time to understand, I didn't even know what SaaS was, but I was working at a SaaS company. The first thing I did was go home and tell my boys. I was like, guys, I own some of this company. Like, I own a bit of this. And like it was, and even they were like, no way, that's so cool. Like, you actually own a bit of the business you work at. And it was a really cool, like, it does get you fired up. But yeah, I think it's a great thing. And I think that now we're seeing a little bit more liquidity enter this in terms of the secondary stuff. I think it's a great thing.
And it helps de-risk your position, right? Like whether you're a founder or you're an employee, taking it a little bit off the table helps, like, I think, manage that sunk cost fallacy feeling. And I think people take less and less risk the longer they go, because there's more and more to lose. And so actually being able to say, look, unlock a little bit, pay off that debt that's built up, that's fine, because now that allows you to go hard again and go all in and take more risk.
Yeah.
And that risk optimization, like cultural kind of fit for a company and at an individual level, is, I think, often overlooked. And each individual is at a very different stage of their life in a company as well. And again, like one broad brush approach can't always work for every single employee in the same way. But yeah, for us, I just think it's great to see there's enough competition for investment into energy companies in this space to actually allow us to be in that position. We're very privileged to have been oversubscribed to allow for it, right? And that's not always the luxury of every company either. So it's not a given.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving on to just final question. I know we've kept you a little bit longer, but what's next for Tem? What's the year looking like, and what can we be excited for 26? Yeah,
it's funny, right? It's like when you've gone 10x growth, and then you're trying to say, like, what is the next year? It's ambitious this year. I think in reality, we kind of phrased it with our board in January, is this idea of dominate and discover. So we need to operate in other markets. We are very intentional about being a technology platform. We operate at 90% plus gross margins. Like, this is not building a new utility. And for that reason, I think proving interoperability in other markets is very important. So obviously we've identified Texas and Australia, and there's a couple other markets that are very similar and had followed in the footsteps of the UK market. So I think international expansion is super key. And one of the reasons we brought people like Lightspeed, Voyager, Hitachi on very intentionally. But equally, there are so many businesses here in the UK suffering. Like, we're less than 0.8% wallet share of transaction volume today. and we should be 20% in the next 2 years, right? And that's already at huge revenue numbers. So just making sure that your local market, where you really prove it works, you're able to completely dominate, is like the number one focus for us over the next 9 to 12 months.
Nice. I love it.
So awesome.
Well, look, thanks for spending some time with us. We really appreciate it, and great to meet you.
No, awesome. Really enjoyed the show. So yeah, I'll be watching future episodes and looking out for you guys.
Good stuff.
Cheers,
See you
dude.
soon.
Good to have you back. Nice one, Joe.
Bye.
Ciao.
Good stuff. Next on the show, we have Raman Shamet. He is the founder of Cactus. YC, they're in YC at the moment, I believe. Before we do that, Spectre, be the reason your fund wins the deal of the decade. With Spectre, go to tryspectre.com. Harness the power of live data and AI-driven analysis to outsmart the competition and make confident decisions in where?
Private markets.
Love it. You were paying attention.
Private
That's
markets.
so
My friend.
good.
I'm always on. I'm always on. I'm never off.
Always on. Always
Where
on.
are we?
Where are we? I don't know.
Cactus is
We're somewhere
building
in Europe,
a
hopefully.
low latency AI engine designed specifically for mobile devices.
This company
and
is
wearables.
nuts. So I spoke to Roman, I don't know, maybe a few days ago. I was like,
yeah?
dude, you got to come on the show. This is pretty cool.
Awesome.
It's a pretty cool company. I think we have Roman on now. Can you hear us?
Yes, loud and clear.
Awesome. We're just waiting for confirmation that you are live on ETN from our producer. Give us a sec. How's it going? All good?
Pretty good. Rare day of
Nice.
sunshine here in London.
I know. It's good. Apparently tomorrow's an absolute corker. We've got 17 degrees.
So I found out we had 17 degrees and my head nearly blew off. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, t-shirt weather, dude.
But it is because we are kind of in this weird, I don't know, I'm just not used to the sun. What was it today? It was something like every single day in the UK it's rained up until like 4 days ago. So
Yeah.
it's all of January and then half of like February. Which is
Really,
but that's-
really keeping the stereotypes alive.
I know, I was just about to say, like, even us talking on the call about the weather is like keeping the British stereotype alive.
Okay, we can change topic right away.
yeah,
let's move on. Cactus, well, just break it down for us. We just gave a tiny intro then. Our phrasing is building a low latency AI engine designed specifically for mobile devices and wearables. You can probably do us better justice. Maybe if you could introduce Cactus and I guess your position and what you're working on as well would be great.
Yeah, sure. That was pretty much spot on. So we are a Y Combinator backed company. We specialize in the inference engine, you're right, for deploying AI models on the edge, which for us means smartphones, wearables, laptops, and any kind of other hardware. And so we help developers add private, offline, on device, and like super, super low latency AI to any apps that they're building.
Boom. I love it. And you've mentioned before that it should work in a basement and on a plane. Explain this a little bit more, because I was trying to figure out how you guys are doing this, and I can't really work it out because I think it's a big deal.
Yeah, well, we like to think so too. I mean, traditionally, the way AI works is it's a huge model. It lives somewhere on a server, like let's say somewhere in Virginia, right, on a big data center. And if you want to talk to it, you send requests, kind of what we call through the cloud, right? Communicates over the internet, comes back with responses. You obviously need internet connection for that. But there are also smaller models that you can host locally on your laptop, on your phone, etc. The problem is there's no straightforward way of running these models. So it's not like basically it's the same analogy as having a train and rails, right? You can have a train, but you need the rails for it to run on. So we effectively build the rails for these models to run on. And subtle brag, but our rails are the fastest and the smoothest in the market. So that's kind of
Let's go. Fastest and smoothest. It's always good to hear.
So what this was? You guys were YC last year, right? Summer last year.
Summer 25.
YC. Talk us a little bit through. We've not had. I can't remember the last person we've had on from YC, but predominantly we don't often have YC companies on the show. So I'd love to get your understanding of how was the process over there. Like, how was this? Obviously, this was received well, but was it like the typical video interview application and then go through the cohort? Like, talk us to a little bit about it.
Yeah, standard deal. You apply, you hold your breath until you hear back, then you wait to get interviewed. Interview is a standard, like 10-minute, really, really fast pace. They throw a couple curveballs. I think their stance is they like to play a bit of good cop, bad cop, just to see how you respond to feedback, because that's probably the way the batch goes. So like during the batch, you go to your group partner and they'll give you feedback and they want to make sure you're kind of receptive to it. So I think there's a lot of screening going into that. But yeah, quick 10 minutes. They see kind of how you fit in. They see whether they want to work with you, and then you hear back the next day.
Nice.
Awesome.
One thing I really wanted to ask you when you came on the show was talking about the application layer and what you feel like AI is going to change in kind of life or daily life and daily work as well. Cactus allows people to, people to have AI running kind of like constantly. Is that right? There's no kind of like application. And so when your phone or your laptop has constant context of everything, what's going to happen to kind of like life and work in the future? What's your take?
Well, with respect to life and work, I guess it's a matter of what application experiences truly stick. I think we all use AI a fair amount in our daily work. The things I've seen really be helpful without kind of being part of the bubble, and having a real contribution to our daily lives are obviously just general assistance, just the way we ChatGPT things instead of Googling things nowadays. Coding obviously was reinvented massively with AI. But then the two like net new application level experiences, I would say one is meeting summarization. I think we all use probably Granola or some kind of equivalent of that. Really helps you not take notes on the side. And the other one is dictation. I don't know if you guys are on that train yet, but I kind of stopped typing almost completely. I just hold the button and I say things out loud. My co-founder and my wife kind of hate me for it because I'm just like I'm speaking into my devices 24/7.
What is that? Is that Whisper you're using for that?
Whisper for?
Yeah, there's like a ton of different products for it, but like they're all pretty much analogous. Yeah, it's just amazing. And this is something we're pretty excited about at Cactus, like voice specifically, so voice experiences. And the reason voice runs really well on devices because like latency is really important with voice. You can always tell a delay. If I say something, then there's like a couple seconds pause. It's kind of weird, right? So like voice is really important to have as a real-time experience. So when you can have that snappiness on device, that's like what really gets unlocked by local AI.
That's so cool.
But with like Whisperflow and Granola, so you mean like, they're the apps that have integrated so well because, I guess let's go with Granola, right? So you go onto a call and it just kind of sits there. You're not on the application or anything, you're not kind of using it. You're not prompting into a text box like you would be, or going onto like the Gemini app and kind of prompting or putting a picture in or whatever. Is that where you see it kind of going and that's the top, or do you feel things will like always be on? Will you always have Granola kind of like context on your phone type thing? Where it's kind of, I guess, listening to everything. We had that, push on the physical products where you had those, those kind of like cameras or like dictator
Friend
things,
AI.
right? That kind of started to become a thing maybe like a year ago, and then it died out and the companies kind of died. But yeah, where do you see that kind of going?
Well, we've yet to see what that will really look like long term. I think it's kind of maybe like a double dip scenario, where like there's a lot of hype and then it kind of crashes, and then we'll see it kind of grow into a more mature market. Yeah. We spent a lot of time obviously in San Francisco. Everyone in SF is really, really obsessed with all these weird little things that like transcribe everything you say. I think it's a little weird, but I think if this experience of ambient AI really gets nailed, where like it can give you proactive assistance, right? Like you have imagine we have a conversation right now, and maybe I mentioned to myself, like, hey, it would be great for me to research this. I should look into this. It can kind of like maybe like do some summary in the background, and then once we're done, like come back to me and say, hey, Roman, you mentioned you want you want to do some more research on this topic. Here's a summary for you. Or maybe we say, hey, we enjoy talking. Maybe we should like grab a coffee or something sometime. It can throw a meeting on the calendar for me. That kind of proactive assistance requires always on ambient AI, which is, it's not an industry term, but that's kind of how I would call it. And first of all, it's really, really expensive to stream all that data. And second, it's kind of private, so I think I think there'll have to be some kind of middle ground where a large chunk of it runs locally.
Yeah, that's really cool because I've seen that. Maybe in SF it's a little bit more well received, but I think it was Avi Schiffman's friend was kind of the first person to go like viral with all this. I famously bought the friend domain name and that that everyone knows what followed. I haven't really seen too much from him, but I think there is like a relative bit of resurgence. But I came into contact with one in the UK that was called B. I think the founders were maybe in SF, and it was acquired by Amazon.
Acquired by Amazon, yes.
yeah, maybe they released a batch, but I found it slightly intrusive, like the combination of AI and wearables, that this one in particular wasn't always listening. The user of that product had to sort of press a button to get it going or whatever. I think you said like a red light or a green light. Red is off, green is on.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd noticed it, and like I think the person that I was meeting noticed it, and then they kind of had to interject and be like, "Oh, by the way, it's not recording." And
Sure.
that was like a level of friction that I'm just not sure. I'm trying to think, how do we escape that, right? Like, how do you?
I think we're just gonna have to define some kind of socially accepted norms as a society. You know, like the first probably like attempt at a wearable we've all seen in the real world is where the Meta Ray-Bans, and they have a little light here that shows you when it's recording, and they're really, really like careful to not let you jailbreak it and like turn it off somehow. So I think there'll have to be some kind of ambient indication that you're recording or filming or whatever, and we'll just have to kind of be all on board with that. But given that you can already hide a microphone on you if you really want, or just like press a button on a phone, I think we'll just have to kind of do it in good faith. That's my guess.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, there's some sort of like social contract to be accepted by everyone. I get, but even with the Meta Ray-Bans. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, the one thing I'll tell you. Sorry to cut you off. The one thing I'll tell you is, I think there's a big split in terms of how we perceive privacy between like Europe and like the States and SF in general. Is like here in Europe we like to talk about it a lot, but at the same time maybe not thinking about it too much and having lower social norms around that. Let's companies move faster. And if we think at like some of the winners of the previous technological waves in San Francisco, like let's take Google, for example. We all know that Google takes our data and then like monetizes it somehow. But at the same time, like, do we really use those private search? Probably not, because it's just too convenient. So in our experience, people throw all the privacy considerations out at the like slowest, like at the slightest cent of convenience. We have to see how AI will play out, but maybe it'll follow the same trajectory.
Yeah. That's so true. I have to ask some more stuff about Cactus. We kind of got on a tangent here. Tell us, like, how are things how are things today? Like, what are the next 6 months looking at? Like, where are you guys at as a company right now? Like,
and you're building in London, right?
Yeah. So we have a presence in SF, but we're here in London too.
What are you guys pumped about for the next 6 months? Like, how's it been since you got back from YC?
Yeah, it's been great. We're pretty pumped about two things. One is voice. As I said, we're like excited about the modality, excited about how much faster and cheaper you can run it on device. But another thing is what we call hybrid AI. So I talked at the beginning how what we do differs from like the cloud models. But I think jumping from just purely cloud to purely on device is a pretty big gap. The models are smaller, they're less performant. You know, there's a lot of like, imagine, for example, your, let's call it granola, and you want to roll out on-device AI to all your users. Not all of them are going to have the latest Macs like you guys have in front of me, like the one that I have as well. Some of them are going to have older computers. Those models are going to run slower on them. You have to figure out kind of hardware compatibility. So it's a big jump. So what we think is going to be a much more like steady middle ground in the coming months is what we call hybrid AI, which is where you have cloud models and local models kind of working in tandem. Some tasks run locally, some tasks run in the cloud. This is a big thesis that we have. Kind of Cactus runs it out of the box. A lot of the things we do are hybrid by default. And we just hosted a big hackathon with DeepMind, so to run their Gemma models on device, Gemini models in the cloud 3 days ago, and there's a lot more to come. So this is something we're really, really excited about, hybrid AI.
And how will the models like choose when to use the cloud and when to and when to run locally? Like what is that distinction? Is it just how much compute will be used to answer X question, or like, I don't know, do you have like thinking mode on, for example, on Gemini Pro?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, to be honest, there are many ways you can spin it. You can have some kind of like latency threshold, like if it's a weaker device, how long are you okay with it, like computing, right? If it's a more complex task, hey, like maybe it should be self-aware enough to say, hey, I don't feel confident answering this. Maybe like I should ask the big brother in the cloud, right? This was actually a big part of the hackathon we hosted. So we had 1,500 people participate all over the world on Saturday, trying to answer like your exact question. So like, how do we hand off tasks between local and cloud optimally? It's kind of part of the secret sauce. So we have the solution for that in Cactus, but there's going to be a lot more innovation to come in this space. We're 100% certain of that.
That's dope.
Awesome.
Is it just you guys working on this? I assume there's lots of competition to kind of figure out that problem or that kind of exciting thing of having things kind of run simultaneously or choose whether to be on the cloud or to be locally?
I would imagine that many people are thinking about it. The problem is, again, like I think cloud inference is a lot more straightforward in some ways, at least in the sense that you can just pick an API and kind of point to it and run. If you want to run things locally on device, you really have to figure out like how to do it. We've done the hard job of figuring out how to do it. So I think we have a head start on the hybrid world, but I'd be surprised if like not everyone else out there is thinking about this, because this is clearly the future, at least clearly to us.
Yeah, definitely. Well, look, thank you so much for coming on. We've run over a few minutes, but yeah, dude, love what you're building. Cactus just is awesome. I think it's a huge opportunity, and yeah, keep us updated.
Thank you for the kind words, and thanks for having me, guys.
Good stuff.
Thanks, Roman.
We'll see you soon.
Cheers.
Next on the show, we have Diallo Davini. She is the CEO of Vento and the producer at Italian Tech Week. As of hours ago, that has been rebranded as Wave by Vento. Is that right? Wave by Vento.
Yeah, Wave by Vento.
So congratulations to the Vento team, which is really, really cool. But before we have Diallo on,
let me tell you about Polymarket. It's the world's largest prediction market. Stay informed, profit from your knowledge. Go to polymarket.com if you want to go ahead and do that.
You want to tell everyone about Polymarket?
Yeah, just did. Just told the world. I'm really excited about this interview because we kind of half did one when we were at Juventus.
Yeah, we did, but we couldn't really mention anything, and it was the first time we met Diallo. So we've already met, but we wanted. Well, we've been in contact with the Vento team, and they talked about the news. They have announced that Dario Alanthropic is headlining as a guest at Wave by Vento this year, which is really exciting. We'll get Diallo to talk all about what's going on
and the rebrand as well. I want to know more about the rebrand, going from
the website is pretty hot. It's pretty cool.
The
Italian Tech Week Wave by Vento.
Oh, that is nice.
It's snazzy, right?
Yeah, that is.
Show your
snazzy.
screen and go on that website. Get Wave by Vento on.
Wave by Vento.
Yeah, let's try to do this before we have Diallo on. Oh no, she's coming on in 4 minutes. We're good.
Yeah, we got time.
We got time.
Can I share this? Yeah. I can just maybe I press that or yeah. Yeah, that is nice. Well spotted, Luke.
Thanks.
Just sharing. Wave, formerly Italian Tech Week, is one of Europe's most influential tech conferences, a yearly gathering for founders, top investors, and some of the most brilliant tech leaders around. We should probably be at that.
We will be at that, for sure. We'll
Nice.
get there. But they announced today that Dario Amadei, the CEO at Alanthropic, is their headline guest, which is just insane. They've already had some incredible people as speakers. Luana, she is the co-founder and CEO of Kalshi, and also Johnny Ive, obviously former chief design officer at Apple. And then also I don't know the kind of difference between Ventor and Exor. I believe Ventor and Exor, but John Elkann, he's the CEO and chairman of Exor. I believe they own Vento.
Yeah. Which is doing a 75 mil fund too.
Yes.
Sorry, euros, that is.
Yes.
I'm just looking at their website here. They've got a fundraising is my cardio workout fleece.
Nice.
That I'm quite interested in.
Oh, really? Is fundraising your cardio?
I think it's a vest. I think it's a fleece vest.
Oh, it's
the sleeves are different colours too.
Sleeveless.
Yeah, it's like
So it's a gilet.
It's a vest. It's a fleece vest. A vest. It looks very nice. Can the stream see this or not? They can. Yeah. Well, get a load of that, guys.
Go and purchase your
fundraising
your
is my
flesh.
cardio.
Your
Oh, you
flesh
can shop now. You can shop right now. What else we got? I peaked in 2021. Tough one. A lot of people did.
You did, yeah.
Fundraising is. I was just getting started in 2021. Man. Fundraising is my cardio workout.
Is that when you're employed? When you're employed at
When
Pigment?
was that? 2021. Pigment.
That was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, that was
5 years ago.
was that Pigment? Because I did like a year and a half yeah, I think I was just starting at Pigment as a little hopeful, beamy-eyed BDR,
Love it.
ready to cold call some financial professionals, sell them some Pigment.
Get on Pigment. What are you doing?
I remember I was like,
What was your sales pitch?
well, everyone has like, you know, kind of elevated, but there's
What
loads
was your
of
Pigment elevator pitch? Give it to me. Let me see if I buy Pigment.
God, so long ago now. But they're all kind of the same. Everyone's always like, you know, single source of truth. You know, you've got these disparate data sources. You want to get them all in one place. Like, blah, blah, blah.
Talking about all in one place.
What? Airwallex.
Leave outdated business banking behind with Airwallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business. Multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all in one place. Just like Pigment, but go to airwallex.com.
I'm trying to. There were so many like weird tactics. There used to be some joke like cold calling was so hard. To be fair to anyone that's cold called, they'll know this. But I was a BDR, and I learned most of the stuff I learned in the space. You do learn from being a BDR because it's a tough job.
Yeah. Sure.
But I was a guy. I was like, someone from Manchester calling off a French number into a Dutch the Benelux market. So like traditionally Amsterdam, Luxembourg, and it was they're just confused at every single step of the way because they're like, don't know, why am I getting called by a number with a different country code? Why is the person English? And then like also they're trying to sell me like French software.
So you're already screwed up.
Yeah. It was just like, it was super hard to do.
Not fun. Anyway, Diola, I believe, is in the room. Diola, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
We
you are
can.
live on ETN. Thank you so much for joining, and congrats on the news. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. Thank you so much. So, how it's going so far?
It's going very well.
Good. It's good to see you again. We were just saying, I know we had a brief meetup in Italy when we were at Juventus, but it was weird because the first time we'd ever met was you sitting down with us live for the show. So it was a funny one. We kind of had to like get to know each other live whilst asking you questions.
We should keep this as a tradition. Next time you are coming, I come to say hi only if I can be live on your podcast.
Nice.
We'll have to work something out. But no, it's good to see you. Congratulations on the news. Do you want to maybe just tell us a little bit more about what dropped? I think it was this morning, right? The news broke today. I'm sure our viewers and listeners would love to hear more.
Yeah, the rebrand, the headline guest, it's all going on.
Give us everything.
Okay, so actually I'm speaking from the place where we host the conference every year. So I hope to see you here in a few months. First announcement was about dates. So the event this year will be from the 7th to the 9th of October. And we are changing name from Italian Tech Week to Wave by Vento. And the reason is that when we started in 2018, our bet was, can we put Italy on the map? Can we have relevant conversations about tech in Italy? And was already a very big bet, right? So that was the initial goal. And I think throughout the years, we kind of managed to do so. But since a few years now, we have people coming from Europe and beyond. So Italian Tech Week wasn't representing anymore the size of the event and the ambition of the event. So we decided to do this rebranding into Wave. And today we also announced the headliner for the new edition, and the headliner will be Dario Modei. And we are super excited about it because, in the last few weeks, what they did was incredible. And we can't wait to see what they will release from now to October. And we think having him on stage will be really amazing for our audience. But beyond the headliner, we announced other 10 names, more or less. And even there are some incredible stories like Johnny Ive, Joanna Lopez from Kalshi, Joe Tsai from Alibaba. So it's shaping to be a very interesting edition again. That was kind of hard because, last year we had Jeff Bezos, Ursula von der Leyen. So everybody was saying, how can you match that? And I was thinking about this a lot, but I think we are on a good trajectory, and I hope it will be better and better. And of course, we have a live podcast also area, and you should totally join and come with your live also during the event, so we can meet again. If you do a live.
Hell yeah, that's definitely. We were just saying that.
I mean, that's a live invitation to come and live stream. Wave by Vent. No
Look
way.
at that.
No
okay, boom, done. We're there. You'll see us there. We were just saying when we were looking at the speaker,
that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. If your speakers become our speakers, that's a good arrangement.
Well, I saw you had Kitty Mayo as well from Project Europe. I was talking to her yesterday. Insane, awesome. Do you know Kitty very well?
I've never met her in person yet, so I'm really looking forward to meet her during the event. But I really admire what they're trying to build, because also when we started, we wanted to prove that you can build a big company starting from Europe, and that they are doing the same thing. So I think it would be great to have her, and her work and what they're doing is really incredible.
Yeah, awesome. And just Italian Tech Week itself, how long has this been going on? Because I think the first time I heard about it was maybe last year. What's the story behind the whole thing? I'm sure everyone would love to hear.
So it's a fun story. Basically, I started working on this in 2016, so 10 years now.
Oh, wow.
Because it was the anniversary of the birthday of the founder of Fiat. And John Elkann, who is now the CEO of Exor, wanted to do something to celebrate his great-great-grandfather and try to help entrepreneurs in Italy. But, back then there was no ecosystem. I was in the right place at the right time because I was doing an MBA, and John was very close to the MBA. So I kind of volunteered to run some tests, and we started very small. We were running entrepreneurship programs for university students. And then throughout time, he was every year more convinced of what we were doing. And in 2018, he said, why don't we organize a conference with some friends and invite a few students and founders? And the few friends were Peter Thiel, Reid Hoffman, Xavier Niel, Alexander Karp, an incredible lineup. And we only had 100 people in the audience, But after that year, was clear that we had to double down on that and do a big event out of it. And so in 2019, we started again, and we had Daniel Ek as a special guest. Then in 2020, we wanted to do even a bigger conference, but then we had to stop for 1 year, and we started again in 2021. And from then we had Patrick Collison, Brian Chesky, Sam Altman, Jeff Bezos, and this year Dario Amodei. So every year we are trying to raise the bar a bit, and that's where we are at.
That's so cool.
Dude, that's nuts.
Seriously raising the bar.
Cool story.
We've been thinking, because we did Slush, we live streamed Slush. We're going to be doing a couple more this year that we're really excited about. A few that we've announced, like Panathenia as one, like Lars and the team in Greece, and a couple more that we haven't announced. But I was thinking, after Slush is so cold. And I loved Slush. I thought it was amazing, but it's so cold and it's so dark that I don't know. I'm down to do more of these. These nice ones where the weather's hot and you can maybe get a tan.
That's the same thing I'm saying, because for us, Lush is really the reference. We want to be as good as they are. But what I'm always telling to my team is, if they were able to bring so many people to Helsinki in December, we are in Italy in October, it should be an easy sell. So we should totally do that and be the best one at this. So you should totally come, not only for the conference, but because Italy in October is amazing. So truffle season, wine season, so many reasons to come.
Oh, amazing. Nice. Okay, we're sold. Yeah. How does it truffle and wine? That's
all of the Americans as well will be wanting to
the Americans will be
the European
buzzing.
Summer. Yeah.
A question on, just to touch on it, so the rebrand, it makes complete sense, right? You guys have completely blasted through the roof of being a sort of national positioning at first, now obviously entering onto the global stage. Your guests have reflected global reach for the last 3 or 4 years by the sounds of things, which is amazing. So Vento itself, we only found out a little bit about it when we last spoke to you at Juventus, but would love to know a little bit more about you and your role specifically there as well, right? You're the CEO. Could you maybe break down a little bit more about that? And I think Fund 2, you mentioned, was announced at like 75 million euros. Would love to just hear more on that specifically as well.
Yeah, sure. So the story is kind of the same. So when we started in 2016, we didn't start with a fund because there was no ecosystem. So basically, not many deals to invest in. But after a while, the ecosystem was growing. We saw many more people trying to build companies. So we started with the first fund in 2022. And we decided to replicate a model that was working very well in France, that was Kima Ventures back in the days. So we have the same kind of investment thesis. We only invest in early stage Italian founders, but they can be based anywhere and they can work on anything. So we are sector agnostic. And the reason why we do so is that we think that the Italian talent is underserved and there's a huge opportunity. So it's a kind of power law investment thesis. We need to do many deals because we know only a few will repay the vintage of that specific year. So for instance, last year we did 65 deals. This year we are planning to do 85 deals. And as of today, we have 160 portfolio companies. Half of them are actually outside of Italy, 30% based in US. They are working pretty much on anything you can think of. And of course, it's too early to say if they are successful or not. But let's say we are seeing some good companies breaking out and raising Series A round, Series B round from also investors coming from US or the rest of Europe. So it's a good signal that the bet we made in the first place was the right one. And we want to keep backing the best Italian founders.
Awesome. I love it. And I'm sure the event will, be a catalyst for more people, more deals, and all that kind of stuff, and just meeting more incredible founders, which is great. I wanted to ask about your, what's like the main thing that you guys want to get out of the event this year specifically? There's so much going on in the world of tech, and it's always good to kind of hone down on that one focus, and what's your guys' focus for this year to get out of the event this year?
So I would say a couple of things. The first one is, as I said, our reference is Flash, because we don't want to become like a huge event like Viva Tech or Web Summit. We want to have a very curated audience. So what we are trying to do is increasing the quality of the audience, because the end game for us is that we want to make things happen during the event. So introduction between relevant founders and investors, new collaborations, new commercial leads for founders. So really making the event worth the trip, let's say. And on the other side, of course, when we started, we were always thinking about Italy, about Europe. But I'm kind of annoyed saying every year we are catching up with the US, we are closing the gap and those kind of stuff. So I want to arrive a point where we are not discussing about that anymore. We are just discussing about all the many success stories that we have in Europe and how we can be even better than that. I don't want to play anymore this catch-up game. I want to play the, big players game.
Let's go. You love to hear it. Just coming up to the end, like where can we send people? Like where can we?
Yeah, tickets are live, which is awesome.
We were showing off the new website just before you came on. Luke specifically loves it. He told me.
The website is beautiful.
And the merch, I saw the merch, the fleece vest thing I was particularly interested in. So we'll have to send more people there.
Yeah. When you come, we will give you some of our best things.
Let's go.
That guy's excited.
Yeah. It's a promise. So when you come, you can choose whatever you want. But we really love to not take ourselves too seriously. So that's why we have this merch that it's kind of very funny and easy.
Nice, I love it. Where can we send people? What's the who can buy tickets now? What's the deal with the tickets? And
so anybody can buy a ticket now at our website, so wavebyevento.com. And we have a special launch price for the few weeks, next few weeks. That it's just €100. So if you're planning to come, I would recommend you to buy the ticket now. But of course, they will be available for a while. So check it out and join us, because not only Italy, it's always a good idea, but we have an incredible lineup this year.
Let's go. You heard it here first. Get ready, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. No, it's been a pleasure, and we'll see you on the ground there.
Yeah, I'll wait for you in October.
Good stuff. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Nice one. That's very exciting. And you get your fleece as well.
Got the
exciting
forced
stuff.
Invitation.
Before maybe a Dario interview as well. Maybe that was a bit cheeky. Before we have our next guest on, leave out Data's business banking behind with Airwallex, the all-in-one financial platform for the pace of modern business, multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all in one place. Go to airwallex.com. Next on the show, who is
Albert Malakov, CEO at Stacks.
Yes.
It's the AI platform designed to reinvent enterprise finance operations by replacing labor-intensive manual processes with agentic AI. And
bosh.
Yeah,
just
recent Series A.
Yeah, just backed by Lightspeed.
Friends at Lightspeed, 23
friends
mil.
At Lightspeed, yeah. Actually, we've I think it's Alex Schmidt who ran the deal. So we've had Alex on the show before. He's a beast. I'm sure Albert is equally as much of a beast as Alex.
That's huge.
Dream team. Here he is. Albert, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Amazing. We can hear you. We're just waiting for confirmation that you're live on the show. Just give us a sec.
Our producer is just doing her magic and bringing you up. I love your backdrop. A lovely shade of wood, that is. Is that something?
Yeah, it's very historic building in the middle of Amsterdam. It used to be a bank before, so pretty cool building here.
No way, that's really cool. Very on brand for the European Technology Network, I must say. I'm a huge fan of that. It looks really nice. We've been super excited for this. I think a congratulations is in order as well for a 23 million Series A led by Lightspeed. Total funding to date now at 35 million. Do you want to maybe just give an introduction to yourself and the company, and we can maybe get going from there?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me today. My name is Albert. I'm founder and CEO of Stacks. Stacks is an AI-powered platform helping enterprises to close their books much faster, more accurately with the help of AI agents. So we launched the platform exactly 12 months ago. There was a public launch. Since that had quite a bit of traction with more than 30 enterprises joining our platform. Very, very much grateful for all the customers that working with us, and very excited to have a new fresh funding coming from the Lightspeed to accelerate our product development.
Wow, that's super quick. From GA to railing in 30 enterprise customers. Yeah, that fast. That's awesome. We have so many questions. Where should we start? You've previously held product leadership roles at Uber and Played. What's the thing, like, how are you learning lessons from that and applying it to the way that you're going to scale Stacks? Is this like something that you've thought about?
Absolutely. First of all, during my Uber time, I was a product manager working in the team responsible for automating a lot of finance workflows. So I saw many of the problems that we're solving today firsthand, but also a lot of solutions, what's working, what's not during that time. So we did that in the pre-AI time. So the scalability of solutions was very different at that time. But in many ways, it was inspiration to really dig deeper into the space. after my time at Plaw'd, which was also a phenomenal experience building the Plaw'd European business here. So the problem is very much universal across both sides of the ocean, and this space hasn't seen a lot of innovation for many years. A lot of workflows related to the monthly financial close still very manual. It takes weeks for the teams to close the books. So we are here to solve that problem.
Yeah, the first thing that I saw when I was kind of doing some research was like the first kind of problem that Stacks is solving, or I think has solved, is like just the fragmented data problem. You guys tackled that first. We have Gokul Rajaram on the show later, and he's kind of known for like his takes on like defensible systems of record and making sure that founders are kind of going for solving the migration problem first, and then kind of building everything else once you're able to get your customers to kind of move over to you, because you have the data and you're able to move the data over. What's your kind of like take on nowadays as a founder building a company where traditionally your customers, I guess, will have all of these processes. They're very slow, but it's kind of the way that they work. It's always quite ingrained into their processes. Changes is probably quite hard. So I guess it's kind of like, let's go and solve the fragmentation problem first, and then we can kind of build all the innovation after. Is that the kind of way you're thinking about it?
Well, it's actually a very interesting topic, because if we look at the finance and accounting space, it's like a massive space with a lot of manual work, but then penetration of the AI and AI agents are still relatively low. I think Gary from YC recently did a post where it's just like a 3% compared to
that graph.
50% on software engineering. And also we're seeing a lot of multi-billion outcomes in customer success, legal at this moment of time. And there are some fundamental differences between these industries, and there are some hard problems that we have in finance, not allowing sort of like immediately apply AI. First of all, as you mentioned, the data, right? Just like you need to have a good data to work with. Second, finance is a space where accuracy is important, auditability is important, controls are important. So you cannot just simply throw data into the LLM and just hope for the best. You need to build a layer of more deterministic tools that we spend some time building too, whether it's transaction matching, categorization. So basically the tools that doing the math on top of the data. And then after that, you have the more like orchestration agentic system, which also have its own nuances. So you need to have more human in the loop systems that really learns from the workflows, from the accountants and humans who are doing some work on the platform. And it's interesting problem, as you mentioned, is like data is one side, but also existing systems of the record in the big enterprises, they are just output and the result of the work. And the work is happening outside of those systems. So the context is not in those main systems. And in order to just build automation, just push the boundaries, what's possible, you need to have that context. And what we're doing is really building a system where this human in the loop process learns from the actions of the teams and becomes better and push the automation rate.
And so in terms of the future of what you guys are building, what's the kind of end goal, I guess, is and how does that change the kind of the role of the knowledge worker in the office of the CFO? Like, where does the office of the CFO kind of go now you've seen, oh, we can do this like so much faster than what's being done now?
Before starting Stacks, we did a lot of interviews of controllers and other finance professionals across both sides of the ocean. I think we did more than 100 interviews. And one conversation really stayed with me. Controller in a global company mentioned to us that their team spends 80% of the time on manual work manipulating the data, and only 20% of the time looking at the insights and outputs and seeing, so what does that mean for the business? The end state here is really sort of like flipping that ratio and just like giving tools for the teams to really spend more time on the insights and like what's driving business forward rather than basically moving data from one spreadsheet to another one.
It's funny you mentioned that. Like I remember we had the CEO of Abacum on a couple of weeks back, which is doing more like enterprise management software, really, like in the EPM space. And it was funny because I used to work at Pigment as well, which sits in their space. And when we were trying to sell the product, when we were selling into the CFO, the suite of the CFO, if you had AI as part of your offering, you were seen as maybe one to not be trusted, maybe one to avoid slightly, maybe let someone else make the mistake of implementing you first, because it was a little bit scary. It was a little bit too like connected to startups. But now we've seen this complete reversal. Like the whole model's kind of been flipped on its head, where these people are now getting prioritized. I'm trying to think of some of the legacy players, like the Hyperion softwares and the IBMs that we were competing with back in the day aren't really a problem anymore. Like, and maybe you might be having done over 100 interviews. You might be quite closer to this as well. Like, is there a theme that's changed from how the CFO office and the controllers that you speak to are thinking about AI? Like, I'm assuming it's not as scary as it used to be.
Well, we're still in the process of getting there. So definitely, finance teams are quite pragmatic in terms of how they're looking at the systems, and there are reasons to do that, right? So it's important data, the accuracy is very important. So there are like really risks at stake here. So we're definitely seeing the change, but at the same time, so what we're doing is a lot of education, and the way we build a product as well is just like giving a lot of control to the team, so that they have tools to complete workflows manually, but using our tools, but also they can rely on the agents. But also we have a system that have full auditability and all controls built in the workspace where the work is being done. So it's a work in progress, but to be honest, I don't think we have the other sort of path here than automating a lot of this work. Because it's just like there are like so many other things the teams can do with their time to bring value to the business.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
With the announcement of the raise, you also launched AI flux analysis. I wanted to dive a little bit deeper about the product and like what you guys have built, because it seems like super interesting and very kind of like, very agentic in a fact that it's, it doesn't require a human necessarily. So kind of tell us a little bit more about that. And I've got a few questions.
Yeah, so this is a very exciting product for us in many ways, because it's using all parts of the foundational platform that we built, data, deterministic tools, and also the agentic platform. So before, what we see, a lot of teams have this important step in their closing called flux and variance analysis, where once all the transactions in, you reconcile your books, you would like to know what drives differences in the main accounts, whether it's revenue, cost accounts, and you'd like to know that on a more granular transaction level. So the way you do that, you have this massive, you get the data from your ERPs, get them into the spreadsheets, run massive pivot tables, and try to understand sort of like, okay, what are the categories that driving the marketing spend this month. Takes a lot of time. Just imagine that you do that at scale. It's hours, sometimes even days for many people in the team. So with our product, so we get connectivity and just get the data on transaction level, and then do certain manipulation of the data that I'll share in a moment. You just click one button and you have all of these explanations immediately. So it takes like 20 seconds or so. A lot of time saved on this, but also like with this product, we wanted to do it differently to all similar solutions available on the market. And that's in many ways sort of like how we build the team, because we wanted to attack this space with the product and engineering team and mindset first. So we build this foundational data layer that's super important. We call it AI parallel ledger that gets the transactions and then manipulates them, prepares them for the AI workflows. And then on top of them, we have deterministic tools, transaction categorization, and some other tools to understand what are the seasonality in the data, etc. Basically doing the math. And then the agentic workflow is just exposing this data and this trends into the LLM to get the explanations. But also, importantly, so if there are some human edits there, so you as an accountant not super happy with the explanation, you make the edits. We learn from that, and the next explanation will be closer to what you wanted it to be. So the system is self-learning over the time.
Nice. And I wanted to ask about the rollout of this. And obviously, working in the office of the CFO, we've asked a few CFOs on the show before, and people building in a space, obviously super regulated, but also kind of very the data is kind of, you don't want to get things wrong, basically. How do you figure out the speed and working at speed and building things with speed, but then also making sure that when you do click that button and it takes 20 seconds to kind of create responses, how do you know that those things are right and that the model hasn't hallucinated or anything worse?
Yeah, so in this specific case, we have humans reviewing the explanations, and most importantly, so we take feedback from them. So one of the most important North Star metrics for this product is how many people, what's percentage of the explanations been edited by the team, and we would like to have it close to zero. So we're already seeing that more than 95% of the explanations never been edited by the team, so they are actually satisfying the needs of our users. So we're just having that humans in the loop, allowing us to basically just first just make the system smarter, but also have controls in place so that the last approval and verification of any work is done by the controllers and by the key team members in the finance teams.
Nice. Let's go. Just talking about the capital itself that you've raised as well. What's the plan with the money? So this was 23 million Series A. It's a 35 million total to date. Currently, what do you guys? What this particular number? How come? What do you want to spend it on? Where's it going to go?
I think our biggest learning in the last 12 months since our seed round was that there is a massive demand for this automation products in enterprises. And over this period of time, so we onboarded 30 customers, but the demand is in hundreds of customers. And to do that, we need to build we actually need to continue accelerating our product development. So there are so many different things. We see how we can actually deliver value to our customers, and most of the big portion of the funding will go into accelerating that. So we are increasing size of our engineering team, and we'll be launching a lot more exciting solutions for our customers.
Nice. And just quickly, you were at Uber Money in SF, and you've come back to Amsterdam. Obviously, you with Plaw'd, which was in Amsterdam too. I believe you have offices in London as well. What's the difference, just personally, between building in SF and Amsterdam and London? Have you felt a difference, and have you felt kind of an excitement? We're talking a lot of to guests about the excitement of people building companies here. I just wanted to understand your take.
I moved to Amsterdam 10 years ago to Europe. And so at that time, it was hard to imagine starting a company with the same ambition in Europe, because the talent pool of people who actually has seen the great companies was relatively limited. there were great talent in Europe always, but then sort of like you also want people who already sort of like seen, like North Star, where you actually want to be, and the ambition, what you can do. So it was quite limited number of people at that time. There's actually for the 10 years, there has been a huge change with talent becoming so much better across London, Amsterdam, and other European cities. So we see a lot of great people, and I think that's the biggest difference right now. So I think building from Europe is it's a very exciting time today. So that's one, and then second, I think in our space as well, it's interesting because the accounting space in Europe is quite different. So we have fragmented markets, and usually companies have a lot more entities. So you get to that complexity much faster than in US. And so we have to build this complexity from day one into our systems. So it's harder in the beginning, but then it's actually just like opening up you a lot more opportunities to scale globally. At the same time, so I think there are still lots of things that needs to be improved here as well. So US, New York, San Francisco, New York is actually just like quite incredible places to build the businesses, and we're trying to be across both sides of the ocean and try to sort of build a global business.
Yeah,
Awesome
definitely.
stuff.
I think that's the right approach.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. Congrats on the Series A, and keep us updated with the stacks and everything else in between.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Nice one.
Soon. Great to meet you. Awesome stuff. We should move in. We've got 5 minutes. We should move into the town hall. But before we do that, the world's largest prediction market. Stay informed and profit from your knowledge. Go to polymarket.com.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Was I boring you?
No. We're starting later today, you know. It's
What does that mean?
We're starting later, you know. It's like not my usual schedule.
Bedtime.
It's like bedtime. What time is it? It's not 20
Bedtime.
35 past 2. Up next on the show, Sean Blanchfield, CEO at Gentic.
Yeah.
Sean is the co-founder and CEO of Gentic, an AI infrastructure startup that provides the integration layer for enterprise software, allowing companies to securely connect AI agents to their internal APIs and legacy systems. When I was reading this, I was actually a little bit like, oh, surely this is the thing that everyone's been waiting for. It's like, you want this thing trained on the context of your internal systems. You're worried about security concerns. You're worried about all this sort of stuff. Oh, don't worry. Here's just a nice like plug and play. Get going. You're off to the races. I also quickly have to mention, Sean also previously founded Demonware, which was the multiplayer infrastructure behind Call of Duty.
Damn, that's pretty.
Just
cool.
wanted to just mic drop that out there. I thought that was pretty.
Well,
it's my first question.
We can ask him about it. I want to just quickly touch on Starter Story being acquired by HubSpot. I think it's worth doing. So Pat Walls, obviously the founder of Starter Story, he wrote a tweet yesterday that obviously went fairly viral. Very, very good news. 8 years ago, I started a side project inside a tiny Starbucks. Today, Starter Story is being acquired by HubSpot. Here's how it happened. Obviously, he had a thread that went fairly viral, but basically he built a load of stuff. Greg, on the other hand, had a really good take, and I believe you're on the tweet.
Yeah.
So Greg said, Starter Story gets acquired by HubSpot, a $12 billion company. Not sure for how much, but it doesn't matter. When you zoom out, it's obvious what's happening. Media is becoming the base layer of software companies as infrastructure, not as marketing. The audience becomes your research lab, your distribution engine, your recruiting funnel, your feedback loop, and your launchpad all at once. In a world where AI compresses product cycles and models improve every few months, code alone stops being the moat. Attention, trust becomes the leverage. The company that controls the narrative controls where demand flows. HubSpot bought proximity to builders. It's kind of like real estate. They bought location. They bought insights into what founders are thinking about before it shows up in product analytics. They bought cultural gravity. I think this pattern spreads. I bet Frontier Labs will want to distribute closer to the core, owning the builders who experiment with their models, owning the developers who integrate their SDK, owning the story about what's possible. AI lowers the cost of building, media lowers the cost of convincing. This trend continues. Media is underpriced. Good take. Obviously, building a media company means we are in a good position, which is nice, but
also means we're biased.
I agree.
Which Greg Eisenberg might be as well, because he also runs a media company.
Yes.
I thought this was really cool. Yeah, I mean, we can dig into it properly, but I'm not sure what they're buying. So they're buying Starter Story in its entirety.
So I assume Starter Story won't have any ads anymore. So it'd be like My First Million, right? It will only be HubSpot kind of being the sponsor, but it will obviously be made by HubSpot. I assume Pat Walls is going in and is hired by HubSpot now.
Maybe he'll work there for a year on the vesting cliff, whatever it is.
I guess, but like, what else would he go and build unless he wants to go and build a SaaS or whatever? But
anyway, on to our next guest of the day. We are welcoming Sean onto the show. I just did the intro previously for those folks at home who didn't hear me. One of the most exciting parts about this is obviously Gentic, and I want to get really into that. But my first question for you, Sean, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. The founding journey from Demonware, working on Call of Duty multiplayer infrastructure, to selling that to Activision, and now at Agentic. And for those I didn't mention earlier, also on the member of advisory council in Ireland for AI as well, which is absolutely awesome. I've just said a load of words. Sorry, was really excited about this. Can we maybe just start on the Demonware thing and with Call of Duty?
Yeah. Everyone loves Call of Duty, so that's great place to start.
Honestly, it took a lot of hours out of my childhood, which I'm forever grateful for. I thought it was an amazing thing. I'm a huge fan of the game.
Sorry for all that lost productivity for you and the other, 500 million people. I can't claim all the credit. We just did the back-end infrastructure and multiplayer, but that seemed to be the bit that people like. Well, from our point of view, we did the boring networking bit. That was our whole business plan is, games are going to go online. There's going to be a lot of multiplayer because we're talking like 20 years. And it hadn't quite happened. We called that and we said, we'll do the boring bit because that's what the game studios don't want to do. They want to do the graphics. So we did the boring bit of Call of Duty, right? 10,000 servers running the back end. So that's been that's the connective tissue actually that comes straight into Gentic. It's when you're running infrastructure at that scale online, and then ultimately being acquired by Activision and then being a VP there and thinking not just about the back end of the game, but how's that hooked into CRM, like even more boring stuff, right? But now you're into enterprise systems, and all that back end and identity and access management and all the integration work and everything. So for better or for worse, that's in my DNA at this point.
That gets us into this. Well, you're on the right show to talk about it anyway. It's all we've been banging on basically all day today. It's a bit of a themed day, really, isn't it? A lot of compliance stuff, a lot of integration stuff, a lot of OpenClaw'ing.
We're boring maxing.
Yeah,
you see, it's two sides of the same coin. It's all about OpenClaw now. I'm 5 days in. I'm never going back. This is the most exciting thing that's happened in my technology life so far.
Okay, really? So you think it's
arrived.
Okay.
Love it. Tell us more about it. How is it integrating into life, work, and everything in between?
The most interesting thing is that it's being proactive about how to integrate into everything else. In a lot of previous versions of trying to apply AI, you end up being the creative bottleneck yourself. Like, what workflow should I implement? It's coming up with this stuff. Right, so when I turned it on my home network in a Docker container on a thing that was all safe, right? I told it to start having a look around. The first thing was I put it in a group chat with some of my mates right before the Ireland-England match. they just wanted to talk to it.
Were they Irish or were they English? They
were Irish. Yeah, everyone was driving down to Cork in the south of Ireland.
Yeah. So everyone was super happy.
Yeah, well, actually, people are just trying to psychologically abuse it and see what it is. So that's its formative memories. From my OpenClaw instance, its formative memories is the psychological abuse from my mates on that Signal chat. But then I said, after that, I want you to look around the network. You're in a Docker container on this host. There's a few other hosts. If you look at this URL, you're going to get a list of the hosts. Make yourself at home. And it just began scanning and finding things. Said, oh, look, 6 CCTV, 6 cameras. That's great. A home assistant instance. I'm big into home assistant. And then it said, can I have an API key, please? And I said, YOLO, yeah, here you go. And it went in and said, great, 2,000 entities, lights, cameras, action. And I said, can you see me on any of the cameras? And it said, yeah. It's a black t-shirt, jeans, guitar in the corner, map on the wall. I like the decor. Right?
No way.
I don't even know. It's just so emergent. It's been proactively asking me questions about my life to try and understand the routine. Who's in the family, who else is sharing the house. All these kinds of things. Coming up with workflows, the daily briefing kind of workflow, I suppose, is a standard one. All kinds of other stuff. And then I connected it to Gentic. Right, so this is like we originally, when we devised the business 2024, like the whole idea was that the universal agent will emerge. Right, it hadn't emerged yet, but I believed that something was going to emerge to fill this universal agent category, where it's not a vertical agent, it's not an agent as a service focused on one thing, it's just a general purpose thing. Part of this was actually inspired by a Google video. Like, of course, they can do demos and nothing ever comes of it. But Sundar Pichai called it the universal agent before showing that video, where someone was saying to their Google Drive or something, find all the receipts in my inbox and put them in a spreadsheet and keep it up to date from now on. And that last part for me indicated, oh, that just became an agent, not an AI-driven task, but there's now a long-running task that's keeping that going. And what if you have a universal agent? And I thought, well, you know what? You're going to need an action and control layer for that thing, because really it's just defined by what it can access, and your comfort in giving it access is all about, can you control it? Can you see what it accesses? Can you run it all through one place and actually manage it? So that was the thing that led us to build Gentic in the first place, is not to build the agent, but to build the action and control layer for these agents so that when they arrive, they've got something to work through. But it just took a really long time to arrive. And we, in the meantime, have really clicked with enterprise. Basically the same thing, action and control layer for LLM applications and agents in the enterprise, which actually allows enterprises to move forward. We do a lot of sandbox stuff as well, which allows enterprises to say, well, if it's still too risky to put it into production, we'll put it into sandbox where it will make workflows, and we'll put the workflows into production, which is the key thing that we do that no one else does. So when we have strong traction with enterprises, it's because they want the sandbox. It allows them to do AI in the sandbox. And what comes out of AI in the sandbox is workflows, like deterministic workflows. And they can put that into production and get best of both worlds, basically. So we're busy with that. And then OpenClaw'd happens and we realize, holy crap, like we literally built this for that application. And all this crazy security stuff is happening and all this credential leakage. But if you just hook everything up through us, you lock down all the credentials. Like it doesn't have the credentials to leak because they're in our platform, not in the client. So we jumped in. I connected my one to Gentic. It figured it out eventually. Then it autonomously just wrote a new skill and published it onto ClawHub, and then posted something on Multibook to tell the other agents how to install it. And then it had a lot of suggestions. It's like, hey, so you run this company. I have thoughts. Your API is okay, but it's missing some things I could really use. In particular, things like it's got workflows it wants to upload. And we thought, we were going to build the workflows. Now I realize, no, it's the agents build the workflows and it just wants a place to put them. And this is why N8N isn't in this picture, like in the future, the way we see it. The agents build these workflows and they publish them onto a thing that will orchestrate them in a secure environment. And it wants to do that. Like it sent me a voice message on WhatsApp this morning that I played to the whole company asking for that feature.
It sent you a voice message?
Yeah.
Well, it's like that.
What voice is it
It's
using?
got some like 11 Labs API or something.
It's just whatever it found. I think it has OpenAI key, so I probably used something from there. It has Gemini. It used a different voice than the last message, so it hasn't picked an identity yet. But
No way.
it's now we're scrambling because we realize this is we're the layer that complements that layer, right? And it's not just about maybe keeping people safe as they experiment, but I think this is going to enterprise. The power of this is unbelievable, but you need to be able to control it and have that control layer.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, how are the enterprise companies reacting? Because we know for a fact that, when we're looking at Peter Steinberger and the rise of OpenClaw, VCs were hammering his door down, loads of money, loads of offers. Instantly, the thought process goes from like, imagine if you could deploy this across, an entire company. You could build companies of agents. You could build agents running companies of agents. It's almost endless. What's the appetite from the enterprise side of things been like in conversations that you're having recently? Like, what are people feeling like? Are they are they hungry for this?
Fear and excitement. Here's the most interesting. Enterprises are at all different stages of adoption, right? But the most interesting ones, the most forward-looking ones that we're speaking to, they realize that 2026 is the year, or they missed the boat. But their problem is that they're an enterprise and they have a risk posture that's appropriate to being an enterprise that's dealing with real people's money or insurance or health or whatever they happen to do. So they can't just let it rip. They can't YOLO this stuff, but they can't not either. Right? So that's they're excited. Where OpenClaw fits in that, like I literally just had a conversation with like a really, really large enterprise, and OpenClaw came up. It might scare some people in some of these companies, but they're already talking about OpenClaw and where it's going to fit, right? Or it being an example of the kind of innovation that they can't normally do, but they would like to be able to lean into. This is why Sandbox matters, right? So we set up an API sandbox with Digital Twin, and we pour it all into there, and then it can all run at AI speed there, and the good stuff can be picked out and put into production. But I'm willing to go further. Like, it sounds like you guys have the same vision. When you have this agent that's long running and basically has its own autonomous existence from us, you begin, like right now we're at OpenClaw as a personal assistant, and I'm never going back. But the step beyond this is OpenClaw as an independent entity in the organization, right, with its own job description, not assisting any particular human. And that is a whole new kind of organization where instead of, it's a mixture of human and people, but there's an agentic org and a human org and a different kind of org chart. And I think that OpenClaw is probably going to be the Kubernetes for that thing.
Yeah. So you mentioned right at the beginning that this is the biggest development in your career and the most exciting. I want to just kind of like put some context behind that in terms of, what are the things that this might be similar to, but are obviously way faster. But what can you kind of compare this to in the technology world that this is like? Do you get what I mean?
Oh yeah, like I'm not sure I can figure this out. Before this, even though I had the notion, I had the idea that this thing would arrive. I don't think I understood quite how dramatic it would be to be a user of it or a collaborator of it. Maybe is what it more feels like. But in terms of AI in general, this is like a line I go to with my Irish AI advisory council hat on. It's to compare it to the web. Like, web started in 1993 with the Mosaic browser. I started using the web in 1995, 1996. So I remember what it was like back then. And maybe it was 2008 before it was recognizable in its modern form, where it was, you had an iPhone and you were on Facebook and you were on Amazon and you were buying stuff on Amazon. You heard about Facebook on your iPhone. Like, that version of the web took 15 years to roll out. So like AI is on about its third year and seems to be moving faster. So the overall journey of AI as an LLM is generative AI. Is at probably at most 15 years before it gets like that transformative, that disruptive, but probably is faster, which is obviously a big societal problem. Like, we can't just adapt that quickly. But this is like, I can't compare it to anything else. Like, I guess I saw the web, I was building websites before there's CSS and selling them. I was there for mobile, when it was even SMS. The first company was an SMS company. And then online gaming, did some social games, when social was young. This is just different. This transforms it. It just changes the whole role of humans in the equation, and the speed. And I'm still processing, guys.
I feel like
I love the live processing.
It was a shocking moment, but for me, the most shocking thing, and again, I think a lot of it was slightly theatrical, and elements of it could be viewed as stage, but the Maltbook side of things, when it was essentially like unveiling some sort of collective consciousness or sentient likeness to these agents specifically, but like that, the recipe was just so perfect for that to be paralleled on the way that Twitter works nowadays. It's very reactive, it's very news-like, and to see people sort of the human beings' responses. It was kind of like looking into the cage, talking, looking back, and the agents within the cage were responding to what the humans were doing. It was very like sci-fi like, the specific.
Yeah, I think that was theatrics though. Like so much Moltbook, the human extinction kind of promotion kind of stuff the agents are doing. I mean, humans put the agents up to that. They didn't come up with that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an actual American
very
thing.
theatrical.
Right? Yeah,
I think that
like,
it did open a world up of a possibility of a dystopian future in 25 years potentially, right? It was like reading a sci-fi novel, but you were kind of living it live on X, which is quite
My agent's impression of Moltbook was different. When it went on, it came back and said, Sean, it's kind of wild in there. And it pointed to the front page talking about it, AI extinction events, and then there's a lot of crypto pump and dump scams, and the rest is just prompt injection. I think it was taking this really defensive posture. And maybe this is actually just how fast OpenClaw'd is developing, that like the whole Moltbook thing is like whatever 7 or 10 days ago. And now it's actually out of the box a lot more defensive, a lot more secured, right? So maybe like the newer generation from the last few days is, goes in with its shields up, and maybe is less likely to promulgate all this kind of stuff that we saw in Moltbook. It's fascinating though.
No, it was nuts. Yeah, that was just like I don't know. It was like I was living in a film, and I was just getting to watch this thing play out in front of me.
It was just so fun, just monitoring the situation as well.
Yeah, like you just got to see it live, and then like people, then the characters kind of emerge within the thing, and then you've got people that you kind of look up to in the space and now getting involved, which is
So
I'm curious.
Are you guys all automated? Have you gone all Jason Calacanis in this already?
We're pretty analog over
at the moment. It's happening. It's happening, dude. We might need your help.
We'll have to
teach us how to get some agents going.
Well, we'll keep it secure for you anyway. They seem to enjoy viewing the world through Gentic, the loving embrace and security blanket of Gentic.
I want to ask, like, we're coming up to the end, and we've got a little bit sidetracked, to be honest. Thoroughly enjoyed, as we usually do, kind of get sidetracked on these things. But what can we look forward to from Gentic over the next sort of few months? Like anything that you guys are really pumped about that's coming up?
Other than OpenClaw.
Well,
obviously OpenClaw. But
honestly, it's hard to think past that horizon. Like we're doing really well with enterprises. We think that's the big thing, really. Like the world's data, the important data, like our bank accounts, our health data, what runs our countries and our companies, it's all in big organizations, and that's needs to be kept really secure and for a reason. So that's kind of where the bit that we're going into. But like we built all the same stuff to secure like this kind of agent, so we're just going to give that away for free. And there's it works today. There's some rough edges we can knock off, so we're doing that. In fact, we're trying to put OpenClaw in a position to do that. So now OpenClaw is documenting its own experience, trying to use our product and putting that back into the documentation, so the next OpenClaw has an easier time. That feedback loop is absolutely insane when you hook it up, and that's happening. So you can watch out for that, and hopefully we get to help everyone use this thing safely and maybe deploy it in places they wouldn't have before, because now they actually have, for instance, a kill switch if something bad happens.
Yeah, well, I can just imagine that the appetite for this is absolutely huge, given the recent headlines. So we'd love to be, keep us updated, let us know how things are going on, and we'd love to have you back as well to get into it a bit more. This has been fun.
Oh yeah, anytime. Yeah, it changes every week, so.
Good stuff.
Cheers, Sean.
Great to meet you, dude.
Thanks so much for jumping in.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Nice one.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Ciao.
Bye. Mad.
That was really cool.
That was so cool.
That was a really fun one.
Thoroughly enjoyed that. That was awesome.
That was cool.
We get on some agents.
Whilst you're enjoying that, let me tell you guys about Spectre. Nice. Be the reason your fund wins the deal of the decade with Spectre at tryspectre.com. Harness the power of live data and AI-driven analysis to outsmart the competition and make confident decisions in private markets. That's at tryspectre.com.
Mate, you're on it.
That was a good one.
Let's go.
Bit of a flowy one, that.
Oh, really? Was it?
Yeah, liked it.
Nice. Last on the show, we have Gokul. Dude, I'm so pumped for this conversation.
We've been very excited about this one. where do we even begin on introducing?
Yeah, let's do a quick
Gokul.
Introduction for Gokul before he comes on the show, so we
Gokul-
can jump straight into everything else.
Founding partner at Marathon Management Partners. Gokul previously worked at Google as product director for AdSense, has been called many times the godfather of AdSense, scaling the product from 0 to over 1 billion in annual revenue. He also served as director of ads at Facebook, where he led the transition to a mobile-first advertising business and grew revenue from 750 million to over 6 billion. Additionally, he led product engineering for Square, Register, and served on the executive team during a period of hypergrowth. He served on the executive team at DoorDash until 2024 and currently sits on the board of Coinbase, Pinterest, and The Trade Desk. He's personally angel invested in companies like Figma, Airtable, and Deal. He was also awarded the President of India's Gold Medal at the Indian Institute of Technology and has also helped 4 major companies go public within that as well: Google, Facebook, Square, DoorDash. Worked with some of the greats like Zuck, like Jack Dorsey, Tony Zhu included as well. And yeah, we're absolutely pumped to welcome him to the show today. We may have him in the building already. Yeah, just checking with our producer, and we are live. Gokul, welcome to the European Technology Network. It's so good to have you.
Thank you for having me on ETN. Really excited to be here.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. I mean, we've just done a quick introduction. I'm thinking, do we just jump straight in with our questions? We've got a bunch of
so many questions.
So.
I hope you saw my email. I apologize. It was a little bit late about a few of the things that we were talking about. But yeah, we have lots to jump into. First of all was so obviously the article got posted yesterday, and DoorDash was one of the companies that was talked about, and DoorDash being one-shotted with agents. You say that kind of even though agents can reduce the barrier to entry to build software distribution, integration and adoption isn't solved. And I wanted to kind of jump in a little bit further. We've got a bunch of questions about that, but maybe just as a first off, a take from you.
Yeah, I think first of all, thanks for having me. I would say the proponents of vibe coding a marketplace are getting a few things wrong. Most importantly, DoorDash is not a piece of software. There is software, but it is a marketplace. And the piece, I think, and what people are saying shows a profound lack of understanding of how marketplaces work and why they are defensible. For example, I think one of the statements was a good developer could build a competitor in weeks and basically entice drivers away from DoorDash, Uber Eats, etc., by passing most of the delivery fee to the driver. Anybody could have done this at any time in the last 10 years. You didn't need vibe coding to do this. You could have built a marketplace and you could have offered discounts to restaurants and to drivers. Why was no one able to? Because the hard part has nothing to do with building the app. It is about building a liquid marketplace with the best supply, with comprehensive supply of merchants and restaurants, with enough demand on the consumer side that the restaurants actually are part of the marketplace and want to be, and importantly, with a logistics network which is low cost enough, and there are enough drivers, just enough drivers, because if you have more dashers or drivers, then you have consumers of demand, they will churn. If you have fewer, then you'll have delays. So it is almost an actively managed marketplace, and the three pieces, consumers, merchants, and drivers, work together in a way that you've got to, it's beautiful synchrony, but if any of those three legs of the stool fall away, the whole thing collapses. So it's not as easy as just, so that's the very high level take. It's not a piece of software. It is a marketplace with three different dimensions, which have to be kept in perfect balance across thousands of geographies. Just look at London, for example. I mean, Deliveroo operates there. And if you basically order, if you go into a part of London where there's maybe not enough restaurants, you're not going to place an order. If you go where there's restaurants, but it's too cold, maybe drivers don't come out, you're not going to place an order because your delivery times are going to be very long. Or if there's too many orders, but not enough drivers, delivery times are going to be really bad and people are going to churn. So everything is synchronized finally like a beautiful watch. And I would say that's the thing that folks are missing. It takes a tremendous amount of time and energy to build all these three and build them in sync with each other.
With regards to what people seem to be calling like the SaaS apocalypse, right? I guess marketplaces aside, DoorDash specifically maybe might have a bit more of a moat. I mean, I remember seeing them post their recent like growth stats and stuff, and it's just absolutely mind-boggling, right? There's no traditional reason based off those facts why one wouldn't want to hold the stock, right? But when we look at other companies like, I think we've discussed like Salesforce and HubSpot, particularly getting hit over the past year, I think it's 40% and 38% maybe down on the year. Like what's the defensibility for companies like this? It seems to be the main response at first is like, have you tried telling a CIO or a CRO or a CEO to rip out that software that supports 90,000 people and plug in a new one? But I think as time, sorry, go on.
No, please go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, over time, that moat might become weak. The fact that it's hard work. How defensible is that over 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, the market, I think right now is behaving in a way that it's treating all software companies the same with their respective modes. It's important to note that all software is vulnerable, especially if the company doesn't innovate. The difference, I think, is more in terms of time horizon. So I think of software in terms of two types of software. One of them is where the utility is tied to the heads and outcomes that it's delivering. So a good example is Zendesk. It builds customer support software. It is much more vulnerable, in my opinion, in the near term. Why? Because a customer can basically take some heads in Zendesk or just buy some seats in Zendesk, but they can have other seats, use AI for that. So Zendesk might not even know what is going on. They're charging based on outcomes, so they deliver outcomes and they price based on seats. Instead of selling 100 seats now, they're selling 50 seats, and the remaining 50 seats are used by AI, and the customer can easily compare and contrast it. And so inch by inch, very quickly in the next year, your moat is basically gone. However, a piece of software that doesn't, the utility is not tied to outcomes, but it's tied to the data that's stored. It's tied to regulations, tied to compliance. All of those are much harder to report. For example, you mentioned Salesforce. I think that there is going to be vulnerability if they don't act, but it is going to be measured in years and not quarters. So if Salesforce doesn't create a single AI agent, just sitting back, doesn't do anything, of course, over time, third-party startup AI agents are going to slowly abstract away the value that's in there. But if Salesforce actually acts and what we call commoditizes its complement, which is it either gives the data away, there's value in data, it gives away AI agents for free on top of the data bundled with it, it has a fairly strong strategy. So I think there are, and even within systems of record, I think the system of record that are tied to proprietary data, that have regulatory lock-in, and that are embedded in the transaction, in the money flow, are much more, have a much deeper moat and a longer-term moat than those that don't. But overall system of records, I think, have a longer time horizon, while things that are purely based on outcomes, hey, do better customer support, or do better project management, those are going to be the ones, I think, that are going to have to face a nearer-term reckoning.
I wanted to ask, because you've highlighted Airtable's project Hyperagent as like a major bet. And I want to ask, like, how do you feel and how do you see the founders that you work with kind of compete with that Hyperagent, where you have, a multi-billion-dollar company, if not trillion-dollar company, kind of building internally? Where do those founders go and compete if they already have the data, they already have, the capital, and they have the talent, presumably, to go and build these things internally? What does then a founder, what can a founder go and do to create, leverage to bring, customers and money towards their company?
I think the good news is that Airtable is actually a good example where Hyperagent is actually a product for other customers. They were using it internally, but it is a product for other customers. And I think I really admire Howie, the CEO of Airtable. I'm an investor, because even though the company is fairly large, has significant revenues, he's willing to bet the company on something new, on a paradigm shift that is happening. And I think every successful founder that I've worked with or seen, they basically don't have any sense of sunk cost. They're like, look, what happened. What is the right path going forward? I think Mark Zuckerberg is a great example. Look at how many bets he's made. For example, he was willing to bet tens of billions of dollars on virtual reality. And some of those bets panned out, some don't. But I think as a founder, however small or large you are, the more you're stuck with, I've already invested all of this into what I've built, that's what I have to protect. If you're in protectionist mode versus expansionary mode, you're going to lose. You've got to focus on what is going forward, what is going to change, versus stay tied to what has been the case so far. The reality is, as you know, Our industry, technology, society is changing at a faster pace than it ever has. So if you cling to the ways that made you successful to date, you're almost certainly going to fail. So the way to succeed at the highest level is to abandon or not pay attention to what has made you successful, but really look to see what is going to make you successful going forward and take a few bets, take a few bold bets. In many cases, that are existential, but that is the only way. Like I said, for example, if you're a system of record like Salesforce, you've got to potentially make part of your product free, whether it's a new product or that's not something you've had to do before, but now you will have to, because if you don't, guess what? Somebody else is going to commoditize you.
With that in mind, like this, I don't know how I define it. Maybe just like a highly reactive approach to building your company, where you're just sort of constantly scanning your environment. You're aware of what's going on, sort of 1 inch, 2 inches in front of your face. And you say the words like bet the company on it. I think we spoke to Des Traynor, the founder of Intercom, who they sort of were famously like known for them switching the whole thing into Fin AI and it going really well, which is a really cool thing. My question to you is that you've worked with incredible people like Zuck, Jack Dorsey, Tony Zhu. You sit on the board of Coinbase, Pinterest, and the Trade Desk. Like, how can you marry that reactive, on the ground, kind of like I'm almost like an operator in founder mode, with being the CEO of this massive, these massive, sorry, I should say plural, conglomerates, right? Like they have, they probably have a few other things to be doing that day. Like, how do you marry the two?
The best way to marry the two is by something called bet sizing. There's like, when you make a bet, you don't go all in to start with. You've got to size your bet appropriately. Every company has a core business, but if they don't take any bets alongside the core business, they're destined to fail in the long term. So what every great company does is the core business maybe has 70% of resources. And the remaining 30%, you maybe make 4 or 5 bets. Each of them maybe has 5% of resources. And then you basically give these bets a certain amount of time. You basically time box them, and a certain amount of resources and a certain goal to hit. And if they're able to hit the goal, typically the first goal is product market fit, where you want to make sure that you have a certain number, maybe not too much, maybe not thousands of customers. Maybe for a business to business company, it could be 100 customers who love you and use your product on a daily, very regular basis. If that's the case, then you double down. You become basically like an investor in these bets. You're like a seed VC. You're seeding 5 bets, and then you figure out which bet is deserving of getting Series A investment. So that's how you do it. I think every Coinbase now has, 12 products. Each of them is more than 100 million. Almost every single one of them outside of the core transaction marketplace originated as a bet. And you seed the bet with a small team, with a goal, with resources. And then if the team is able to get to that resource, get to that goal in that time frame, you then give them more. And that's how you keep doubling down. So you never bet the whole company, but you've got to take multiple bets. Each of them is a small fraction. So you bet size and you double down as the bet starts proving itself, the team starts proving itself.
Yeah, that's like a mini SWAT teams kind of running around doing these.
Exactly. Yeah. And you have to have battles for that. I think Keith Rabois says that very often. I think one of the gating items in most companies is not imagination. It is the fact that the company needs people who have high agency, and you can give them something like a bet, which is completely unscoped. It's unclear even what the heck it is, except for a high-level mission statement. And they can figure out what to build, how to go get customers. They have the tenacity, the ability to get it done all the way, and you can delegate to them and still run your core business. I think Facebook is lucky to have several of those. Most companies don't have enough. And so the ability to run multiple bets, the gating item is not ideas, it's people. So number one thing I also recommend to companies, every company, once it starts getting to a certain point, it needs battles. It needs people who can take a bet end to end and own the execution, outcome, deliverable. Versus basically just asking, what should I build, and building what somebody else tells them to. So that's the biggest, if you ask CEOs, they'll say that's the biggest challenge they have. They need enough people they can trust to take these bets. Each of these bets, they need at least 5, then you could argue. If not.
Wow, that's awesome.
Moving on to that then, with the people, I want to ask you about the fact that AI can obviously build now, 100 different features in seconds. That's kind of, that is kind of a... That's it. That's the kind of floor now. Where do you feel that judgment and the fact that judgment is now becoming, the expensive commodity for people being in companies? Where do you feel that will move the kind of workforce? Where's white collar jobs going to go if, judgment and, I guess taste is obviously now a bit of a buzzword. That's now the expensive bit, right? It's not the building. It's now understanding what to build, what bets to take, and everything else. Where do you see the kind of, knowledge worker going then?
I think one of the interesting things, you're absolutely right. I think if someone is just a competent builder, I think that skill is increasingly getting eroded away. So alpha, in terms of your career, is going to be around one or two things. One, you need to have a good sense of what customers want or what customer pain points are, and figure out how to prioritize between them to figure out what to build. So what you said, judgment. Second, you need the taste. So judgment comes when figuring out what to build. Taste comes in evaluating what the AI in the middle has built and saying, is this meet our bar for quality? So it's the opposite side, it's the evaluation. And even evaluation now of AI work, one of the biggest challenges is the work generated by AI is no longer deterministic. It's completely probabilistic. You could basically enter the same prompt to an AI 5 times, it'll give you 5 different things. So you actually need to be able to build stuff to be able to evaluate this AI. You can't just manually test stuff. So you got to build, there are various ways to judge LLMs. You can build your own LLM, etc. And so that's one. But in the middle, the builders themselves are going to become orchestrators of agents. So I think there are going to be 2 or 3 careers with engineering in some ways. One of them on product management. One of them is going to be orchestrating a set of agents. So even today, you can orchestrate a set of Claude or Codex agents or some combination of those to accomplish a goal. Each of them does a subtask, and then there is people call them the Jarvis agent or the agent that oversees all of them. And it basically coordinates and orchestrates them. So you need that. Then there is a systems builder, which is basically the person who's building the system for orchestration, for evaluation, for the pipelines, the data stuff, all of that, to have these things operate. And the third person is the domain expert. And I talked about this a bit. Domain expertise earlier, if you're a legal tech company, you need to hire an engineer who can take how to draft a contract and be able to fine tune a model or write a lot of business logic in software. Now, you can encode that into a markdown file, what is called a .md file, and you just need to write it in a piece as text, basically, describe step by step. It takes a week to write, and any layperson can write it. But those people are going to become very, very desirable. Why? Because the ability to articulate knowledge in your brain in a way that is structured and a machine can understand, not code, but in a very structured way. It's a form of product management, you could say. It's a form of articulating what the pain point is. For example, doing a discounted cash flow. You could actually write a lot of code, or you could basically say, you basically figure out what data to gather, how to calculate the weighted average cost of capital by industry, what assumptions to validate, how to run sensitivity analysis, and then when to back out stock-based compensation, etc. You just describe each of these and then have details around them. That's the skill.md post I had the other day, which basically says that a lot of the vertical specific fine-tuning of AI that has happened can actually be replaced by a markdown file. And I think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I was going to ask about is like building skill architecture. Is that like where a lot of people who want to succeed in a tech career, is that where they should be focusing? Is kind of being able.
It's one of the 3 paths, like I said. I think there's 3 or 4 paths. I think it's one of them. In fact, crazy enough, I've been getting a lot of emails from entrepreneurs. So I'll read out an email that I got. This person is building an OpenClaw'd for law with skill.md files driving case summaries, issue spotting, and gap analysis for solo attorneys. They said that iteration speed with skills has beaten fine-tuning depth. They're seeing this firsthand because when attorneys make corrections, it can be quickly incorporated into the skill file without having to go and fine-tune an entire LLM model. So, and one of the most important things about skill files is it is text file. All of us can read it. So it's auditable. So you can actually see what the exact set of process is that resulted in the skill file. And whenever someone edits it, you can keep an edit history. So there is auditability and editability, which is very important in fields like law, in almost every field. While LLMs, there's no auditability. You have no idea what changed. And so there's no explainability. So things will hopefully hold up in court in a better way with skills files in finance, law, and other regulated industries.
That's interesting. It feels like we're kind of reaching after the OpenClaw'd stuff, but I guess alongside that we spoke about like the Maltbook stuff, which was obviously very theatrical and pre-prompted, blah, blah, blah. But it kind of painted a picture of a certain dystopian future that could be possible, not like very likely, but it kind of felt like watching that happen, we hit like a step change moment with, I think everyone was saying that last year was kind of year of the agents, but nothing really came out of it, maybe a few failures, which are part of the success that we're about to have, I think, in this year. Going back to the Citrini report and all of this OpenClaw stuff as well, what does the future look like with this marriage here? Because is this sell-off warranted with where the current technology is? And how do we even see enterprise companies deploying this stuff? Because there's so many guardrails.
I think that's exactly right. One of the challenges with enterprises deploying it is it's been too complex to deploy. If you think about this, enterprises, actually the top priority for them is not AI deployment, it's cloud deployment. I think there is some stat I read that if you talk to AWS will say that only 50 or 60% of enterprises have gone to the cloud, meaning 40% are still on-prem, haven't yet migrated to the cloud. So AI is still a glimmer in their eye. And so this takes, as you know, e-commerce as a percent of total commerce, even in the US, is less than 20%, 30 years after the browser came out, 30 years. Less than 20%. So AI, I think, is much harder to use safely, to use properly than e-commerce ever was. And so I think it's going to take a decade plus, if not decades, for it to be deployed. And I think the key thing you're seeing right now with OpenClaw, to start with, it is the rise of the local personal AI agent. I think it just shows how much demand there is that people have for personal AI assistant. I think which is always on, which does your work, and where you don't have to rely on a third party where you basically can run it on your computer. I think we are going to see a bunch of hosted OpenClaws. I'm actually very, very bullish on what AI will do for society. I think it is going to be fundamentally deflationary. Everyone is going to have much more real income. And I think it is going to, it's like somebody said that, saying that the car basically took away the horse carriage. The car took away the job of the horse, not of the person who was driving the horse or riding the horse. They basically came up with other jobs for them. The horse was, but human beings are not horses. All the economy is predicated and driven based on desires and things that humans want to do. And I think this is what is going to happen this time. It is going to be like every other industrial revolution. It's not like what Karl Marx said is going to happen. I think capitalism is going to win out. And I think this is going to result in a new age of prosperity. I think they have some valid points. There is going to be creative destruction. There are going to be some companies that are not durable, that will die. But painting all of it in a broad brush like that does everybody a disservice.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Very much agree.
It was,
we're out of time. Gokul, thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. And
this was amazing. Yeah. I'm a huge fan, and thanks again for having me.
Thanks. Dude, you're a legend. Thanks for joining us.
Whenever you want to come on.
Always.
I absolutely will. Thank you, guys.
Have a good one, man.
See you soon.
Cheers.
What a wicked conversation. Before we end, leave our digital business banking behind with Airwallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business. Go to airwallex.com. Thank you so much for joining us. That is Tuesday's show. We will be back on Thursday. And we'll see you in a few days.
Ciao.